This episode was the most classic Game of Thrones of any House of the Dragon episode yet. The rats are gone, and in their place are cats, which is itself familiar, right? Who else got led into the tunnels and got lost thanks to a cat? Well, Arya, of course. I love that. And while down there, Arya overheard Varys talking about his little birds, among other things. Lo and behold, we have a man playing the spy Game of Thrones with a lot more grace than he does Syvath. Certainly, Varys is a lot more composed than Lord Ormond, but they both use children as pieces. This is the use of little birds before Varys' use of little birds, although I think these ones still have their tongues, thankfully. And coins, something Varys also did in A Feast for Crows to sow discord, where in this one we have A Feast for Traitors. We actually have to work a little bit harder on this one, thanks to those Game of Thrones vibes. There's just more scenes. The pacing is hyped up. It's accelerated, so we can move from location to location quickly, and there's a lot total. But it's really rewarding when you take all that and look at each scene and location and plot point sort of as one. A lot comes together. For example, looking at all 7 Criston Cole scenes as one is very revealing, and it's pretty hard to do that in the moment as you're watching. For example, I doubt you even caught that there were exactly 7. And that's great because his end speech that played over multiple other scenes, including his own, was devoted to the 7. And there were 7 in the Feast for Traitors. So this is just cool. Too bad it wasn't episode 7, but hey, I'm glad we still have so much season left. All that and more on this review of episode 5, Unbowed, Unbent, on History of Westeros podcast. Welcome, everybody, whether you are a new listener or old. Like the new gods in the old, we respect you equally in these parts. I'm Aziz. With me is Sean and Ashea. We are here every 6 o'clock Monday Eastern to discuss the most recent episode, whether it's House of the Dragon, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, or what else may come, one of which we'll mention, though it's not a TV show. We also preview every episode at 5 o'clock on Fridays Eastern, where we also talk a lot about book canon and things like that. We have our unsullied co-host Sean here, who drinks odd beverages but has not read the Fire and Blood portion of A Dance for the Dragon, so his takes are out of the box. And that's paid off big time here, as I'll tell you. There are 2 things Sean was right about that I was wrong about. We'll get to that. But first, Sean, what is that beverage you have today?
You know, I've gotten a little more standard with what I'm creating here. Magic Mind, Naked, Green Machine, and Mountain Dew.
It's more standard, yes. Very
normal.
Is the blood of the workers mixed into those stones? No, never mind. We'll get to that too. So, yeah, if you guys want to hit us up with your favorite moments, questions you have, Easter eggs, callbacks, anything you liked or didn't like, certainly hit us up here live or at westeroshistory@gmail.com or at our Discord or at our Facebook group. I'm definitely going to mention our Facebook group in this one. And of course, we are pretty much everywhere else you can find people on social media. Frank Wizza starts us off with a question saying, any man who must say I am the realm's greatest warrior is not the realm's greatest warrior. It's a good point. That is a recurring theme. If you must, I don't know if he had to say it, but he did say it. So it is, he might be right, but it's one of those things that you can't be sure about. But also Frank
Wizza back. He's also the realm's toughest and most dedicated
and
warrior.
Best speaker. No.
And you would say his handsomest warrior, I think, Sean.
Oh, for sure.
You
wouldn't have to say that. That goes without saying.
Frank Wizza also adds that Ashea is the best, which, yes, like Criston Cole is the realm's greatest warrior, Ashea is the realm's greatest producer.
Well, I didn't say it, so it's okay.
Yeah, she didn't have to say it. Yeah,
but
exactly.
I will briefly say, vote for us in the Hugo Awards by August 8th. Voting closes, so get that in.
Yeah, we are up for Best Related Work in this year's Hugo. We would love to call ourselves a Hugo award-winning podcast. It's already an honor to call ourselves a Hugo-nominated podcast, however. Let's see if we can live up to that with this review. The first 3 episodes of the show accounted for only a few days. It was a much different pacing. It was really heightened in terms of minute to minute. Episodes 4 and 5 span a much greater length of time, and they handle their pacing by cutting to the key moments but there's a lot of implied passage of time between these things. Defenses have progressed at Tumbleton. Messages are going back and forth. Assassins have been trying for Aemond, implying word has spread of this bounty, which is going to be referred to in multiple places in this episode. Vhagar has been sighted in multiple places. Baela and Adam mention that they've been flying in search of her for quite a while. Joffrey has traveled from the Vale to the Red Keep. So yeah, lots of things that indicate the passage of time, at least somewhat consistent across the time, different plot lines. You can't always be too timekeepy on these things, but this show hasn't been egregious like original Game of Thrones was. So that part of original Game of Thrones is not in play here, thankfully. Unusually, we had 3 straight episodes directed by Claire Kilner. Now we have Nina Lopez Corrado, who is also directing the upcoming episode 7, which probably a big one, right? Episode 7, penultimate episode of the season. We don't actually know that for sure, though, just a guess. This episode was called Unbowed, Unbent, and Lord Ormond says that straight up, but he also says Unbroken later. I honestly was guessing that maybe this would be called Mother or something like that, or something about mothering. There's so much to do with mothers and mothering. Aegon and Aemond, of course, they both talked about it. Mother liked him best, and Helena and Alicent, like the whole point of that was mother and another mother, right? The mother and grandmother, but Alicent protecting Helena, Helena protecting her child. Or children, really. And that plot involves Moon Tea, which is obviously a big part of motherhood or not. And there's Rhaenyra at prayer and Kristen at prayer, which of course involves the mother when you're speaking of the 7. Sean?
I feel like they're implying Alice and Aemond had a mother-son relationship, although we already know from Alice and Aemond that they might go deeper.
Yeah, I would go. I mean, I don't even know if it was implied. He flat out says mother, and she starts humming like a nursery rhyme. But you're right, it's there for sure. We'll discuss it in detail. In fact, that's going to be the first scene we go to. And Ormond is he's not a mother, but he's certainly talking. He speaks of the Princess of Dorne, who became the warrior, channeled the warrior in order to be a mother to her people, and the father as well. And Ormond is kind of the only parent to Daeron. He's mother and father. And Rhaenyra is afraid, is a reluctant mother in this episode. She's afraid to see her own son Joffrey, which is a subtle thing. Rhaenyra is not in this episode as much as some of the others, but as usual, her scenes pack a lot of punch. But let's start with the intro crawl, as we often do. All those things I just listed we'll talk about in greater detail throughout the episode. One thing I want to note here is that Corlys is being removed. His threads are going the opposite direction. This thing progresses as threads being added, but his is being taken away, which we don't really need to explain why. He's left. He wasn't in this episode, although he's sort of indirectly mentioned because we do hear from Driftmark, but that's we'll talk about that when we get to it. Now, we figured out what our confusion was last week. We were right to be confused. Somehow Sabbatha Frey got herself added to the intro crawl a week early.
And not this week, the week she's actually in it. She's not in it this week.
Oh, she wasn't actually in it anymore?
I think they really messed up the intro crawl, the order that they did things. Because, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And there's things that aren't in it this week that should be, and vice versa.
I think maybe they flipped it, or maybe they're off by one. Anyway, it's probably maybe even we'll be able to fix in the after. The fact, because it's just the intro and they can probably edit that, like the way they removed the coffee cup. This isn't a mistake of that magnitude, of course, but
I feel so much better knowing that we aren't just oblivious to who it could have been. No, we didn't see Sabbath Frey.
No one guessed Sabbath Frey. We had a lot of guesses from y'all. No one said that.
Spoilery to tell me who Sabbatha Frey is?
What do you mean? We met her this episode. She's the lady that showed up, was on the small council that was whispering with Manderley.
That's her. What's the name? Sabbath?
Sabbatha. Like instead of Tabitha, it's Sabbatha.
Yeah. She's
you probably just missed her name is all. You saw the character, of course.
She's originally a Viperin who married into the Freys. Her husband's Lord Forrest Frey, if you recall Jace going to treat with her and her husband. But she's kind of the more
she's the dominant
in control,
one.
Yeah.
We did see her. Yeah, we saw her last season when Jace flew out there. But
I recognized the character. I didn't realize the name.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. There's no way you would have missed all that. Yeah, and of course they were hilarious talking to each other. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Alicent and Helena are also in the opening crawl in a different context. So there have been some changes, but yeah. And then of course at the end, instead of the rat being torn apart, we just have two people on opposite sides of a thread, which I think is reflecting the common people being divided, which is certainly happening in King's Landing on certain different ways. But as usual, this one's like a lot of them. This is pretty open to interpretation, I think.
The character on the left if I had to guess, I might be wrong. It might be generic or some other thing, but it looks to me like they're representing Daron. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah. The different
The
colored
way his
garb.
eyes are
Yeah.
kind of. It looks like the coin of the image. I don't know. Something about it to me makes me think Daron.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, let's see here. Let's do our favorite performances. Sean, I'll start with you. Who did you want to cite in this episode?
Sean, you're muted. Sean?
Sorry, thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
I got you. Yep. If I may take a quick moment, last week I made a joke at the expense of Canada, talking about why we hadn't heard of the show that the Darren actor is in. And I just want to point out right now, I'm wearing a Letterkenny shirt, and SCTV was the birthplace of many great comedians, including John Candy and Catherine O'Hara, who then went on to do with Eugene Levy, Schitt's Creek, one of my favorite comedies. Anyway, I just want to take a moment to apologize if I.
You want to apologize to Canada officially. Also, you're forgetting Anne with an E. One of the best Canadian shows out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Sean's apologies, but yeah, tell us your favorite now.
And
Oh, are you glitching? Yeah, you're muted. Sean's having an issue. Now there you are.
Test, can you hear me?
Yep, there you are. Okay.
You can hear me now? Okay, sorry. I think I'm picking Matt Smith. In the past, I think that I've picked Rhaenyra a lot, and whoever I picked was like clear winner for me often. This time it was really tough. There's lots. It was spread out among more characters, and but there were a couple moments that he had that I appreciated when he was his little speech to the Gold Cloaks, which partly felt sinister to me. He's winning them over with promises of gold down the line one day after he conquers everybody. And I guess it riled him up, or at least some of them. And also the moment, which again was a little annoying, but I appreciated when he kind of poked at Rhaenyra a little bit, and the steps like, "Oh, everything will be happy all summer, no snow," But I think his character came through the good and bad parts of it. I think he did a good job. Many other people did too, but if I have to pick this week, I'll give it to him.
That's a good point, about the tough love that's present in this episode. He gave her a lot of tough love, a lot of tough advice that she needed to accept. And at least to her credit, she admitted later that he was right about at least a couple of things.
Yeah.
What about you, Shea?
Oh, I think I'm going to say Gwaine first and foremost. I really found myself surprised by his performance and the subtlety of some of his tears and just how haggard he seemed. And I liked that as person for Cole to bounce off of. But I thought other scenes I really saw that Fabian had shined. But yeah, for me it was Freddie Fox. Also, just a shout out as well briefly, Helena. I've just constantly have been wanting more from her, and I think she got some more to do in this episode than maybe before. A lot of range from Fia. And then just the Laris Aegon scene remains just two really good actors playing off of each other with humor and sadness. And yeah, I couldn't have picked between Tom and Matthew Needham, honestly. Just that scene was so good. So
I agree with you. Their body language, both those guys, they were really just putting on a clinic with all the little, when Tom's knee was bouncing and how Laris's just exasperation was just so apparent. I had Laris noted here too, but I'll talk about some. Actually, I had Gwaine mentioned too. I'll cite Olivia Cook Allison again. She was really strong as usual. Her working the angle as a powerless person is such a different role for her than being at the top and then slowly losing power. We saw her descent, and now she's just having to be a different kind of person, a different kind of actor, and I like that a lot. I really liked Eamon quite a bit. Ewan Mitchell's really strong. This is an aspect of him we haven't seen much, so we saw a bit of range in this one too, although most of his energy was in a fight. He didn't have a lot of dialogue in that moment, but still it shows that he's coming back. And I'll cite Manderley for being even perhaps funnier than anyone else. Maybe not. Laris was awfully funny, but Manderley was so funny. There was multiple times in this episode where someone said, but his was the funniest. She said, "Is it always like this?" And he goes, Like, he didn't actually didn't respond. It was kind of like a passive, like, let me think about that. But, or I don't want to answer right now. Or, it was just,
that's Aemon's thing. He took Aemon's.
That's right. From almost executing Orwell. You're right. That was his response to backing down.
Aemon's done it several times, by the way.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Times. Like, nice. 5 or 7 or something. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, there were a lot of them in this. Larys did it. Kristen Cole did it. After like Gwen's like, we can't. Everybody, the morale is bad. Everybody's if we cut left over here, we can get in front of them again. It's like I said, intense. Like I'm listening, but I'm not listening actually. Ginger-bearded Geek 86 says someone recreated the Last Supper in Westeros. Leonardo da Vinci exists in this world and is actually Bloodraven confirmed. Yeah, that was pretty intentional, wasn't it? 7 people instead of, I guess, 13, but definitely laid out like the Last Supper. It is 13 in the Last Supper, right? But yeah, that was intentional. They said in the BTS they were thinking about that.
Can I say, I don't want to get into it now, but I will have a couple things to say about Gwen when we get to those scenes. I also really love those moments. Yeah,
there's a lot of layering. In fact, that's where I said we're starting with Harrenhal. I lied. We're starting with that, and then we're doing a Harrenhal. So, so let's go to what I call 7 scenes and 4 Fs. The 7 scenes are the 7 different scenes with Kristen Cole and Gwen. The 4 Fs are the actors' names: Freddie Fox and Fabian Frankel. Yay! I don't know if they actually intended it for it to be 7 scenes. I hope so, because it's really cool that he invokes the 7 in that final scene, like I said in the intro. I would actually maybe look more closely at each 7 scenes if I had more time to maybe assign one of the 7 to each. The episode actually begins with them behind the scenes, right? Roddy the Ruin and Oscar Tully are talking about Cole and how he's been impeding them, and they decide it's time to change their tactics. Basically, to do to him what he's done to them, or something similar. And both sides discuss getting to Stony Sept first. Let's see that on the map real quick here so we can talk about it. It actually makes a lot of sense. It may not be clear to everybody, so let's make sense of it to those who either haven't thought about it or aren't sure. Now, as you can see along here, look where Shay has the cursor. The Stony Sept is up there west of the God's Eye. That river falls all the way down past King's Landing. That is the Blackwater Rush. So to cross there, yeah, the river crossings, if they can't cross at Stony Sept, they can't go farther west because that would take them into the mountains, and that's no place for an army to go. If they can't cross there, they have to go all the way down the river, basically to cross at near King's Landing. And obviously that's going to cost them a huge amount of time. It could enable them to go more directly towards Tumbleton. That's not exactly what they want. But either way, it's a delay, a significant delay. As you can see how going straight from Stony Sept down instead of going all the way across will be better for them because they can follow the Rose Road once they get past Stony Sept. Whereas following along the Blackwater, there's no road. So there's a road on the other side of the water. That's why it's much faster. Otherwise, it might seem, as far as the crow flies, the distance is pretty similar. So they're not going to bother to explain all that, though. But I can assure you that it seems to make sense. Cole says later that they're just going to cross. We'll just follow them with rafts. The smaller army can do that. For one thing, the bigger army's in front of them and is not a threat to attack them. They also don't have horses and armor anymore, so they're just light. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The Cole's attack is very effective. That's the important part, and it necessitates this change of tactics by the River Lords. Time has been spent, and that is bothering Rhaenyra, making her more unsure of herself, and it's giving Ormond more time to do his thing as well. So it's affecting a lot of things. I'm glad they started with it because it is the tardiness of this army is affecting a lot of things, and Kristen Cole and his group are the reason for that tardiness. So they do send word back to the Red Keep. It gets brought up during the small council meeting we'll talk about later, but that's the first scene. And we see a bunch of killing and all that stuff and the actual burning of the tents. Then we go ahead to the second scene. It's lighthearted because they've been successful. This campaign is going well. They're riding their horses. It's not bad. like they're still have their armor. You know, even Gwaine is even kind of smiling here. He's in pretty good spirits, right? Yeah, look at this. He's like, yeah.
But you know what I liked about the beginning of that scene? That they showed the spider web because, you know, it's all about people getting each other in traps, just like the spider catches. Mm-hmm. You see right there, like they made a point, you know, to show that. And they are
nice
about
catch.
To be in a trap.
Yeah, because this is where things start to turn.
Yes.
It goes bad from them from here on out. But before it gets bad, Gwaine is speaking of Lord Ormond. This is a really, really thick conversation. So much is being laid down by this kind of lighthearted convo. He's just like, I would race Ormond to the top of the high tower. And I'd let him win because he was thin-skinned, quote, even then, he says. And then we actually see this later in the episode. He is a sore loser playing a game. Even years ago, Daron didn't want to face a tantrum, just like Gwaine didn't want to face a tantrum all these years ago. It's really great. So, and meanwhile, what Gwaine doesn't realize is he's about to be in a similar chase, a race to Stony Sept, just like he was racing to the high tower all those years before. So that's another layer. Meanwhile, underneath all of that, Gwaine is trying to recruit Criston Cole. He's trying to bring him over to his side. He's like, yo, you're this legendary warrior. The high tower, the view is so beautiful there. Your abilities, you're so great. You know, as good as a person as Gwaine is, and I think almost universally see this as one of the more honorable, one of the best people on the green side. He still can't help, partly because of who he is. He's a high tower. Cole is an asset to obtain for his house. It's very eye-opening Cole's already been thinking about this all along, but I think at some point here, he's realizing, man, even this most decent, honorable member of that house is just sees me as a way to improve the stature of their house. He doesn't see me as a friend or as a guy to hang out with or as a guy or even as a person. He's a way to make House Hightower more powerful. And he's like, I've dealt with this my whole life. And that's why in the end, when he says, you know, I'm the best in the realm and I want to die as the best in the realm, I don't want to sunset my career looking off the top of the high tower, being disrespected, being looked down on. I'm the best I am ever going to be. Now, not later. And yeah, the lords and ladies and kings and queens, they see him as Gwaine does, but with less warmth and respect. And if that's all he can get from Gwaine, what can he get from Ormond or other high towers? He's already been around Alicent, and he got as much as he could there. The life he can't have is whether with Rhaenyra many years ago or with Alicent now. Yeah, he's been on this path for a while, but Gwaine was trying to steer him off it. Like, no, you don't have to go die. You can go do this. But he just couldn't. Eventually, Gwaine gives up and is like, man, I cannot get him off this path. And if I don't get off this path, I'm going to die too. Go ahead, Sean.
I have one minor exception to what you're saying. Generally, it's all true. But I think that it's framed a little odd when you say that even from Cole's perspective, even Gwaine still treats me as an asset. Even he doesn't see me as a person. I think it's a little unfair. I think Gwaine really does see him as a person and a friend and so on. However, in the end, Gwaine still knows that Cole will be seen as an asset to his house. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Cole and Gwaine, through this ordeal, have become close friends and really do understand and trust each other. But how could he possibly have that relationship with other people? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And he knows in reality what will happen if he goes to Old Town and the tower and everything. And even his bond with Gwaine won't be enough to give him the independence, if you will, respect that he really wants.
That's a good point. I totally accept that interpretation. I think there's room for all that in there, and we're not meant to be 100% certain.
It could be both, right? Gwaine can see him as an asset and be his friend genuinely, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He may not even realize it. He may not realize he's looking down on Cole a little bit by doing that. And why would he? He's a high tower. He doesn't have the perspective. Even Gwaine, the guy who does have some perspective, doesn't have this perspective. You know, it's not only is Cole's journey unique, but his place in society is very unique. He's not just a man who rose really high. Despite his status, he has this skill that's just really, really exceptional and a really unusual career on top of all that. He also had so many things that came together to make a really unusual character. It's hard to put yourself in that spot for anybody. And I think that's part of why Cole feels alone as well, on top of everything else. So as if literally to punctuate all this, the relatively easy ride through the forest gets a lot nastier. We get crow's feet, aka caltrops, puncturing some horses, and suddenly they know that they're not in the lead anymore. This has become a race that they are currently losing, and they're going to have to change tactics. Cole's determination only increases, something that just continues to rise throughout as the difficulties get greater. His determination increases. Gwaine's tough enough to keep going, but his morale drops considerably. It holds for a while, but, well, we needn't go through each scene individually. Rather, the progression is what matters, and the key moments, and what's said, and basically how it started versus how it's going. Yeah, they start with... Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Can I say something about that first scene? Another sort of symbolic, allegorical piece of that. With the, as Shay started off with that spider being featured, and they seem to be in good spirits and successful, but they get brought down, if you will, literally off their horses, and they end up abandoning their armor. And this position that Gwaine has as a high tower, and that Cole has his hand of the king or whatever, it's kind of, maybe in some theoretical way they still have the positions, but in reality, that's all gone. They're just dudes underground like the other soldiers around them. And through
well
this,
said, yeah.
Cole is still clinging to his determination, his mission, his honor, his whatever else it is. Whereas Gwaine is still thinking about going back home. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of shows that Cole is like home now, if you will, like for better or worse, this is his home, being just a regular man, doing the best he can, which is probably better than anyone else. And he doesn't have some vision or some hope for after this, whereas Gwaine does. And that's like,
yeah, you're right.
A theme throughout this.
He's written his story. He wants to write his story. That's specifically what he's basically saying at the end, and it ends soon. He's written that ending. He hasn't gotten to it yet.
He wants this to be his story.
Yes, and Gwaine is not really part of that. Which is why he leaves at the end.
You know what it also reminded me of was the Bela Adams scene that is punctuated throughout it, because she calls it pride, that she wanted to be a hero, and it is Cole's pride.
I have noted, despite large differences in their ethics, Bela and Cole have some things in common, and they're very determined people. They're very single-minded, very focused, to a point that it can be a problem for other people around them, like it was for Adam here, and like it is for Gwaine there. But now Bela's, of course, a lot more noble with her intentions. Again, I don't want to compare them over much, but I think in that they have something in common.
They are both trying to make up for mistakes of their past, too.
That's a great point, yes.
I got to overcome this thing by being extra great in some other way.
And she has some things like, she has more of Gwaine in that she has more of a future. She can come back from this, right? Like she partly because of her birth and station, and she still has a dragon, but she did lose a lot. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, even though that is a great marker there. Now, real quick, do you guys think this scene was in the same spot? Do you think that village was the same place that Kristen Cole and his army passed, that Bela and Adam were at?
Yeah, I kind of thought so. I like the idea that they both were in the same
connective tissue
footprint too, because you see them next to the same Vagar step. But I don't know. You could go either way. I just that was what I liked.
Yeah, I prefer that.
I took it that way for sure.
Cool. So yeah, you're right, Sean. Like they literally get stripped down to who they are as the scenes progress. Instead, they don't have their armor, their accoutrement, their loyalties, even who they are as humans comes out. Yeah, it's pretty cool how that gets done. So yeah, there's endless thorns and brambles. There's uneven terrain, rain, and bog. In the third scene, Gwaine points out how terrible their progress is. That's when he says, yeah, and then just changes the plan, plots a different course. It doesn't slow down at all. In scene 4, that's the Vagar's footprint scene. It's probably, could be near Wendish Town. A man then actually jumps ahead in that same scene to the bog. A man falls dead, and that Jorah captain guy says, leave him where he fell. There's a few other examples in A Song of Ice and Fire where an army is in dire straits like this, and people are just dying on their feet, like at the wall, or beyond the wall rather, after the fight on the Fist, or in the Red Waste, Dany's people dropping, or Stannis' host in the north. Yeah, there's
well, they see it at the beginning too, the other army's men lying there, right?
Yeah.
So like they saw it at the beginning, and now they're the ones leaving men, trailing around, right?
You're right, yes.
And Gwaine gets leeched here.
Gwaine gets leeched here too. Yeah, that's fun for him.
When I was watching this particular moment when they're trudging through the bog, I thought it reminded me of a couple Werner Herzog films. And in the Act of the Plays, Gwaine referenced that in the making of bit there. Werner Herzog had a couple movies where he just dragged his cast and crew through the jungles trying to make this epic film, and it like people got sick and injured and died in the process of him trying to get this, this is in the 70s. They didn't have the option and some of the equipment and CGI or anything like that. And I don't know. I felt good that it harkened to me the same thing it did to this actor. Makes me wonder if the filmmakers, because he called it a stunt going through this bog, and they had to get a pontoon to get the equipment and people out there. They were really knee deep in the mud trudging through this.
I cracked up at all the videos of people falling.
It's really worth watching the BTS for this one, y'all. They're just like falling all over the place. Gwen with Freddie Fox talking about how much fun it was, but also how hard it was. Like, there's cameramen are just like falling over, like they have no idea where to stand. Yeah, like it's like, so it was really pretty. It was really quite authentic. Their difficulty there. And that's often what a director's doing by bringing people to a place like this. You get authentic difficulty because it's authentic difficulty. They really are having to slog through that. So in the sixth scene, the fifth scene, they get to Stony Sept Crossing and they see they've been beaten. There's even a banner at the crossing there to sort of taunt them, to say, you know who did this? We got here first. And Gwaine is just so despondent. He's like, I let Ormond win, but these guys genuinely beat us, in the racing. So they at this point they talk about they've lost half their men, but they're not. Cole isn't even slightly deterred because his mind was made up a while ago, and I mean he's going off to die. This is nothing. He's going to go die, right? To him.
Can I say a little bit of analysis? I don't know, tactical analysis. In my opinion, here. They didn't get the entire Riverlands army across that bridge. They sent the Starks, who can move quicker with a smaller force. They're like playing Cole's game to burn that bridge just to cut them off. They're still sending the troops up, across, in a bar. They're still delayed a week. But now Cole can't harass them any further. That's just, for what it's worth, my interpretation of what happened here.
Okay. Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. Either way, in the sixth scene, Gwaine makes one last try for getting Cole to change his tune, but of course it doesn't. He believes they will sing songs of him, speaking of tunes, and that Queen Alicent will hear of them. And yeah, this is an important reminder that this is part of what he is lamenting, that he can't have this life. It isn't just about service, but he's lonely. He can't have a relationship with the people he wanted to, with either of them. Ironically, if he knew Alicent's current state of mind and situation, he might have been able to convince her to go into exile with him before Helena got pregnant, that is. He was 20 years too early and had the wrong queen of the two, yeah. Too bad for him. In the final scene... Can
I say one thing about Gwaine here?
Yeah, go ahead, Shea.
I just want to point out the tear that he sheds with what Cole says. I don't know if you noticed that, but when he has a single tear that like crosses actually down his face, very fine acting.
Well, that backs up what Sean was saying about him seeing him as a friend and maybe as a bit of a person. Like
I think he was heartbroken to think that my friend is throwing their life away, and that's how he sees it at this point, So yeah, he was.
That's the exact thing that I wanted to talk about was when he cried there. Rita asked me, why do you think he cried? And man, that stirred up so many thoughts in me. And I think there's a lot of reasons, right? And I think one of them is, and I might slightly ramble, I'll try to keep this brief, but I think it's worth everyone out there thinking about this for a minute. I think partly it's Gwaine has a respect for Cole. He's seen his toughness and his leadership and his ability and his determination, but also he sees it as all for naught. Also, maybe even makes him question himself. It's like, I'm not as good a man as Cole. It makes him wonder how this is going to pan out. He's thinking I might quit, which is a tough thing to face. It like on and on. I thought that was really powerful, and I'm giving you the tip of the iceberg of all my thoughts on what spurred Gwaine to cry here. I think it was really, really good and really worth thinking about.
Yeah, I think that's probably a part of what you were thinking about when you cited him too, Ashea, as one of the standout performances here too.
It was. I think it was this scene specifically. It was everything as a whole, but this is what put it over the top because it was not an over-the-top performance. It's a single tear that really spoke volumes about their relationship and where Gwaine is right now. It left me I'm really excited to see Gwaine leave Cole and where he's going to go, and he's going to go meet Daron. And I'm excited for the future of Gwaine now that I don't think he's just doomed instantly.
I wonder if someone will ever make a disparaging remark about Cole around Gwaine, and Gwaine will be like, no, do not talk to, like that is not a man you will talk negatively about in front of me. I could see that happening. Yeah, and then the final scene, it's beautifully done. They put a lot of effort into it. Like, they filmed a variety of different vibes for Kristen to have for this. But ultimately they went with this prayer version, which I thought was really effective. And I like this technique that they used here. It's something we've seen in films and TV shows before. It's the whole speech that applies to multiple scenes technique, where Cole is giving a speech to his men, basically 7 separate prayers. But this one is sort of parsed as it aligns not just with what's happening in some of these other scenes, but the specific aspects of the 7 that are being invoked also seem to apply to it. One thing that happens, of course, is Gwaine leaves. He says, let's go, and walks off with like 3 or 4 guys. And yeah, look at that look. He's not like disgusted. He's sad. He's just, he's like, I tried really hard to get this guy to do otherwise. And, maybe I just didn't say the right thing, but, either way, it's just not happening.
Yeah, he's looking at him like, this is the last time I'll ever see this man again. And I'm going to see my sister probably and have to tell her of what happened to Kristen. And yeah, it's definitely sad, but I'm glad he didn't throw his life away with him.
Yeah.
This is also another... I love the scene, but I think I loved it even more. Once again, in the behind the scenes, they talked about how to play this. And they even showed a cut where Kristen was a little bit more motivating, and the father, blah, 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 and all the troops cheer, and the Smith, blah, 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 and all the troops cheer. But they went a different direction where it's a more somber final prayer than a motivating battle speech. And I thought it was way better this way, way more unique this way for sure, more powerful, more emotional, more meaningful. But, and on top of all that, I think it's a good example. It's a good demonstration of how much a director can impact the script and the film as a whole. It's the same words. Cole is saying the same words, but the director having him say it in a different way, in a different mood, with different music, whatever else, just changes the whole context significantly and for the better.
I agree, very much agree. And it's kind of why I wanted to start with this plot line, because it is the beginning and the end. It's where we start, it's where we finish, and it even as some of the other plot lines are finishing alongside it. For example, Alicent and Helena are in the tunnel. Both she and Daemon have lanterns, as Cole mentions the crone lighting the way. Nicely done. Then the mother is mentioned as protection, but then we realize that Alicent has maybe led her daughter and her daughter's child into a trap, or into, an unwitting trap, into a place they maybe can't escape from. And as Cole
Akbar was all over this episode.
Yeah, that's true. And as Cole begins speaking of the stranger, we get to the final scene with Daemon discovering the feast for traitors. And of course, there's 7 men at that table too, as I keep saying. So yeah, they really focused on these scenes for the BTS. Vagar mattered a lot in this one, but it was more because the dragons, and I say that because the dragons are often a big part of the BTS, the way they put them together and all that. But we only see Vagar's eye and footprint. So Cole and Gwaine and his men's struggles were prominent, and the parallels within to a lot of the other characters. Yeah, I wrote in my notes here that Freddie Fox, as I said, was the most fun filming in the bog, but also the most difficult. But I actually typed the most difficult, which is also true. Also, as it was funny that they talked about that actor who played Lord Piper is a lot taller than Fabian Frankel, so he had to stand on a box to slit his throat, which is just kind of amusing to imagine. Like, hold on, I gotta leech up here to actually, hey, can you lean down so I can kill you, please? Yeah, we'll discuss House Piper in the books during Friday preview as well. There's a little carryover from the books and little things that are different.
Can I throw in one other little observation here? Another parallel sorts going on at Cole and Gwaine. In my notes, when those scenes came, I wrote Cole and Gwaine trudge along. And whenever Laris and Aegon were on screen, I was like, Laris and Aegon trudge along. And I didn't do that intentionally. I just realized it. Everyone read back in my notes like, oh, these are both like 2 people kind of brought down for their positions of power, learning something about themselves, struggling in the wilderness or in the new environment. Anyway, I thought it's, however intentional or not, I read that as a parallel.
Yeah, Aegon even stepped on something and hurt his foot, like right around the same time the horses
right.
did. Yeah. Karina Strick wants to know who blocked the passage. She's guessing Otto. Well, quite possibly. A lot of those passages are a problem, but I
can imagine it being Daemon or Rhaenyra too. They would have been.
They both were aware of some of those. That's a good point. Yeah. But
or it could have been response. I didn't even think of this after they broke in to get Helena's kids. Yeah, there's lots of people who would have been realized and had motivation to block that up.
good point. Yeah. Let's go to Harrenhal. A group of 3 men show up to try and kill Aemond. Several examples now, according to Alice, whether assassins or Aemond himself or Cole and Gwaine, etc. We have Alice greeting them all. Nothing goes on in the Red Keep without Mazzaria learning about it. That's a theme of this episode, but it's also in Harrenhal. No matter where they show up, this is this gigantic castle. It's enormous. It's the size of like several shopping malls. But whenever someone walks on the grounds, whatever entryway they take, whether it's the front door, whether they climb up the back rocks, the cliff face, she's just right there. She knows you're coming. And that must be unnerving. Like, you must realize, you're like, wait, how did she know we were even here? We're being sneaky. And this place is enormous. That by itself is unnerving. So I understand why they're scared of her from immediately. And she has a reputation because of these sort of things. So that adds to it. There's the black goat, which often heralds her arrival, which definitely reminds us that, yeah, she's definitely supernatural, but she's got the Melisandre Euron thing going on where it's not all magic. Some of it's just tricks to make herself seem more magical. She starts off with the speech. She says, Harren the Cruel, that's Harren the Black, says, this castle, her founding stones were watered with the blood of men, and she's always thirsty. So he's, obviously trying to scare them, implying the curse, that the stones have power because of human blood. That metaphor has appeared in the books as well several times. But then she just picks up something on the ground. You can see how scared they are. It's like Gwaine being scared of her. She just reaches down to pick up a rock, and they're like, what are you doing? And then she just tosses it behind her, and it just startles the bats, and the bats come rushing forward. I don't think there was anything magical about that. There may have been. The implication is that maybe there's a little bit of magic there, but that might have just been knowing how the bats are going to react to that rock crashing among them, right? Like,
I totally agree with you. I think she was probably using magic to know when and where people were coming.
Yeah,
right? She's using seeing through the eyes of the bats or the owls or whatever. She could see
skin changing,
people coming around. She knows what's happening, and that's magical. But the bats wasn't necessarily magical. But just because she uses some tricks doesn't mean she doesn't also have real magical powers, just like Melisandre, right?
It's pretty cool. It's a way to make your power seem more powerful, and thus your reputation precedes you even more, and thus before people even approach you, they're already scared, which those guys were. They were already scared when they got there. They're calling him Aemond the Kinslayer. He acquires that nickname in the book earlier because of Lucerys, but they bring it, the implication is that the death of Aegon, who is closer kin, is more important and additional, right? That would be 2. But this is because Rhaenyra declared Aegon dead, so it's a bit of the waterfall effect, domino effect. So here's the thing you were right about, Sean, that I didn't even consider really, which was that Vhagar left Aemond. We didn't even think that was possible. To be fair, even Aemond didn't think that was. He was like that could never, like, she would never leave me, he said. And he's like, well, that's what happened. It's for a reason never before seen in canon, to be fair to my guessing. That said, it was a really cool reason. He's having fever dreams and he's sleeping in a werewood bed. So the dragon's having some reflection of that. It's not a full skin changer thing, but it's happening. It's there, and plus she's getting hungry and going off to get food. He says he's having dreams of Aegon's face on fire, dragging me down into the dark. And the BTS, the implication here is pretty strong, and they confirm clearly in the BTS that, yeah, he feels some guilt over what he did. He plays the strong face. And remember, again, I referred to Lucerys. It was the same thing there. We talked about it at the end of season 1. That dude did not want to kill Lucerys. The face he made afterwards was not the face of victory. It was, what have I done? But he played it as if he did it on purpose, because better to be evil than incompetent, right? That's this kind of a standard rule of, I don't know, masculinity, maybe? I don't know. Certainly people like this.
Villainry, power.
Villainry, yeah. You don't want to see him incompetent. He definitely that's the thing he least wants to seem. So it's pretty cool that Vhagar was responding to his dreams. So yeah, good catch, Sean. You pretty much nailed that, and may not have known exactly why it was going to happen, but you were right. So we'll talk about a little more of that on Friday. We know it was a fever too, because Helena says he burns, but without fire. That's pretty clearly a fever. And she also is adamant that he's still there. So it's funny, in the preview episode, I talked about how, we haven't had any Helena prophecy stuff yet. She's been very emotionally intelligent. She's very insightful, but she hasn't done anything magical yet. Boom, there we go. So a little bit anyway. It wasn't a lot, but it was distinctly something she can't know without magic. And Aemon himself recalls Helena's dream from the last time she had a dream of importance, which was the end of the last season. The one she told him about, where he's swallowed up in the God's Eye, that he's going to die, the very lake he's next to, the one she says he ruined it all. Now, does Alice believe that too? Has she seen the same future? And is she just trying to get what she can out of him in the meantime? Or is maybe she can interpret it differently? Well, you said you'd die in the God's Eye, but maybe that's 20 years from now. Who said it was tomorrow? Who said it was soon, right? Either way, she leans into it, right? She sees an opportunity. Like Wayne, she might genuinely like him, but there's also an opportunity here. When he says mother to her, I think that was very eye-opening to his state of mind, his persona, what he's been through. And she immediately takes him in hand, both literally and figuratively. She starts humming to him. It's a calming, motherly tune. And it carries over into the next scene, which is Orwell bringing moon tea, which is pretty neat that this is the same sort of parallel that's being created there. And it's a good opportunity as well for me to let Sean weigh in here.
Yeah, there are, by the way, a number of ways that Aemon might be burning. Fever is clearly one, but he might be, I don't know how to say this, burning with, confusion, frustration, anger, sad, burning can mean a lot of things. But also, I will point out, you saw one time the wound on his back, how there's this sort of web of, I don't know what to call it, blood markings through his veins, kind of going up his back, probably an infection of some sort that, it's not worth getting too into the minutia, but a lot of times when someone gets stabbed, it's the type of thing that bothers me about actiony stuff. A lot of times someone gets stabbed in the back and they fall dead immediately. If they're a bad guy with no names, they're just dead immediately from a stab in the back. But sometimes they struggle and suffer through the wound. But this type of thing would be incapacitating. If it got his kidney or his liver, if he's got, some bile in his blood, things that just could knock him out and take weeks to recover from, not just the scratch on his back. You know what I mean? And so I like that that's being, at least for this central character, being reflected realistically. And also, in my mind, when he said mother, I was like, oh, she's really got him in his clutches now. Whatever her motivations, however much she might really feel bad for him or think he's important to her prophecy, or this is the angle to get revenge on Daemon or Rhaenyra for not giving it all the different things. She could have multiple different motivations. But even if on some level she's trying to help Aemon, it certainly won't be as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it's like whatever she wants, he just gave it to her, whatever that might be. Yeah. He just gave her the keys to it, yeah. And he hears this roaring sound. It sounds very dragon-like, but I guess it's the wind or just a trick of our perception. I don't know. There's certainly no Vhagar
in his
there.
Own mind.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then there's this stunning balcony shot, some of the coolest shots of the whole season. This just looks so cool. And they have another bonding moment. He's just he looks over that balcony, is terrified, doesn't see Vhagar. It's not what he wants, what he wanted to see, but he doesn't see it. And so there's maybe 3 bonding moments in this episode, which is a keystone of the great pacing in this episode, right? They're building things. The first is when he awakens, right? Then they talk then. And 2, when they're on the balcony here. And then there's the 3rd, when he kills the second set of assassins. Now, as to those second set of assassins, briefly, one of them mentions making Alice his salt wife, which probably means he's Ironborn, and maybe all 4 of them. And then the 4th is impaled on a weirwood root. That's not at all symbolic, right? They even emerge from behind the weirwood roots. Oh, look at this. Okay, well, here's our funny moment. Look at that. Sean, did you realize that they cast Bargain, Faramir, and Boromir for this? This is they got Lord of the Rings vibes here. I mean, we already have bold John Roxton, who is literally Lord of the Ring, the castle called the Ring, and his garb is all rings, super ring mail. But yeah, this is seriously Faramir and Boromir right here.
Another little minor note. just the nature of, I don't know how rumors might spread or how people might think of someone or an action someone did they call him Kinslayer? They didn't call him Kingslayer. And, ostensibly, if he killed Aegon, he would be. But that might be more dubious of a claim, right? Maybe Aegon's not dead. Maybe Aegon isn't the real king. And maybe Jacaerys is removed enough to not be kin enough to call Kinslayer. But when he definitely killed Jacaerys and might have killed Aegon, that's
you mean
enough
Lucerys.
we're going to go and call him Kinslayer.
Well, I don't think Kingslayer, it would necessarily be some sort of automatic title. They gave Jaime that title because he was in the Kingsguard. That's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's specifically, he killed the king he was supposed to protect. That's a bit larger of a crime. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, in that sense, like, obviously, kinslaying is also a really big deal. But yeah, it's also just more reflective of the book. But you're right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think any younger brother that kills his older brother who was the king is going to kick out a Kingslayer.
Right. But I think also that I don't agree with you that people aren't seeing him as a Kingslayer just because they're not sure. Because I think everybody is sure. Almost everybody is sure. I don't think there's a lot of doubt, except in amongst people who know. I think the general realm is like, yep, Aegon's dead. That's that. I don't think there's a lot of question there, except among people like Ormond and the High Septon, maybe, things like that.
There would also be rumors from the battle of people seeing Vhagar blast on fire,
Yeah. Like, it would be believable that he's dead. Yeah, like they knew he was badly wounded. So yeah, that he took a turn for the worst that's easy to believe, I suppose. Yeah. So let's brief comparison. Alice and Aemond is definitely a bit like Ormond and Daeron. There's certainly a lot of different setup for them. One is very long term, and of course they're very different people. But you see how there's a lot of this happening, and that's normal. When you have power, you have people that can't access that power directly. They use other people to access that power. I can't be the king, but I can manipulate the king. I can't be a dragon rider, but I can manipulate a dragon rider, etc. Different things. And that includes people like Alicent, who's used to power, trying to manipulate a servant, someone who for her whole life she could just tell what to do. This time she has to bribe her and all this, and it still doesn't work. So the change in people's fortunes is a big part of this as well. I think this episode in general is kind of a theme, but not just how they've changed in this episode, how they've changed across the entire show. Baela's fortunes have changed. Rhaenyra's fortunes have changed. Obviously, Alicent, the example I just used, so many other characters. Criston Cole's kind of coming to his end. Gwain's starting a whole new arc, maybe. Other key characters are just getting into the story, like the aforementioned Ormond and Daeron. So, a lot of that. But
I don't know if Criston Cole's coming to his end. I think he's being reborn as the hero I knew he was all along.
He'll have his own resurrection too, right? Yeah. When he said they'll sing songs about him, Sean, what do you think? You think that's true? You think they'll sing songs about him?
Well, I did have, even though I don't know the details, I've gotten this perspective that people don't like Criston Cole. And I believe he's being presented very differently in the show than the books. That's my first guess. But that people's preconception of him from the books is not getting in the way of what the show is presenting. I think it's much more tragic if he doesn't have heroic songs sung of him.
Yeah.
And also, I think that all the efforts he's going through right now, who even knows about them? Right? Like, there's only maybe a couple dozen people, and there's a lot of people on one side, right? The Starks and the Tullys, they're aware, but they're going to paint him as a villain, as not fighting honorably, and all the men fighting with him that know how courageous and clever and whatever he is are likely to die.
Yeah, with
Wayne
him, yeah.
is the one person that might be able to advocate for him, but he might not live, and he might not be in a position where it's smart to advocate for him. Like, if he goes back and tells Ormond what a great man Cole was, what's Ormond's response to that? It's not going to be like, yeah, I'll keep that in mind and tell everyone. No.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have the attitude that Lord Duskendale had, or Lord Darkland rather, the Lord of Duskendale. When he was executed, he called Criston Cole, Kingmaker. So there's another King Blanky Blank or Kin Blankety Blank, right? because he turned on his queen, and they hate him because he's upjumped. That's just always the case. Like, so many people hate him just because he's not highborn enough to be hand of the king, even if he so supposedly earned it. Now, this last line with Aemond is something that finally strikes him. Like, he's just been kind of ignoring her. Like, he asks questions, but he doesn't care who she is. He asks if he's a prisoner. She doesn't really answer. She just kind of ignores the question. She's like, But he asks, who are you eventually, when she says, you know, sometimes the child that grieves her is the child the mother loves best. This is something she says after he says mother to her. And so she's had a whole scene that has passed in between, maybe even longer, because she's thinking about it. Like, how can I best use this? Maybe. And he says, he finally like looks at her, you know, like, who are you? And she says, one that has been grieved, which is a really intriguing, mysterious response that I think gets us a lot of the way towards what she means, but definitely not all the way. She's definitely saying she's a mother or was a mother, right? At least that much, I think. But maybe not even that much. I want to hear from you guys on this for sure.
I wondered that. To me, it made me think about the land, about Westeros, about, you know, being a mother, you know, to all creatures, and her being like a custodian of the land, you know. But the other thing it made me think of is the difference between Daemon and Aemond, in that I think she genuinely cared about Daemon, thought there was maybe some decency future, that she could get what she wanted out of him, and I think she cared about him, right? And he grieved her, okay? And now she has Aemond, and I think she, you know, the one who grieved her, she still loves more. I think you know, it's kind of my take on it, is that there's an element that I think she's thinking of Daemon there, weirdly, but my larger thought is that it is about humanity, one who's been grieved by humanity. Like, she's lived this long and she's seen just a lot of terrible things. What about you, Sean?
I think it's another example where it could apply in a lot of different ways. I think it's easily, she could have had children in the past who have grieved her for whatever reasons. Those children may or may not even still be alive. I totally like your take on Daemon, because the context, part of the context, at least here, was Aemon just talked about, he thought his mother loved Aegon more. Like, I did all these things, and yet my stupid, undeserving brother got to be king. My mom made sure of it. He's like frustrated over that. Aegon doesn't even care about Alicent. I do. I want to have sex with her. I like her so much.
Yeah. I wonder if Alice perceives that part. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a great parallel here between the two. Obviously, they have their back-to-back scenes where they complain about the other during childhood. The person listening responds much differently. Of course, Alice is soothing and like indulges, where Larys has had enough, right? We'll talk about that part later. Alice goes with soothing, Larys goes with the tough talk. Aemon doesn't blame his problems on others so much. He starts to panic. He does start to feel powerless, though. He's like, I'm nothing without Vhagar. And that's where the parallel returns somewhat. They both got to want to find Vhagar. Aemond wants to do it because he needs his dragon. He wants his power back. And Aegon is like, well, if I find Vhagar, I'll find my brother and I can kill him. But they're both ridiculous. Larys is like, you can't find this dragon on foot. You barely even have 2 feet. And Aemond, kind of same thing. He has 2 perfectly functional feet, and it's still ridiculous, the idea of him finding Vhagar on foot. The 2 dragon riders can't find Vhagar. You're hopeless, man. And she's right. She corrects him, and she's kind of like, in his fever state, he maybe didn't perceive it that way at first, but yeah, okay, you're right. I can't just go find her. But his desperation was in play. So... yeah, I don't know. I mean, Vhagar may come back to Aemon, but he's not going to go to her.
I think with the dragon bond, Vhagar would feel that Aemond is in like having a fever state, which is, just to speak more about Vhagar, I have a couple thoughts about it, which is, yeah, Vhagar was reacting to his bad dreams, and it was making her kind of spin out, maybe, you know, and act out because of that. But I have another theory based on things we've seen in the previews, and I'm going to talk about that on Friday in case you're avoiding the previews. But I have a theory I actually like a lot, so tune in for that. I also want to point out that Aemon cries a single tear here as well. That she wipes, you know, Alice literally wipes his tear away here, you know.
He would have cried too if he could.
Aegon would have cried?
No, he would have cried 2 tears.
2 tears if he could.
He could only
one from
cry
each
one.
eye. Oh, that's terrible.
So, yeah, Sean, what do you think here about
Yeah, I think that it could be, the sort of magicalness surrounding dragons and Harrenhal combined. I think it could be that maybe if Aemon pulls himself together, if you will, or Alice allows him to pull himself to get out of the funk, she's going to show him some vision or whatever, Vhagar might return. Maybe Aemon will just leave, Vhagar or no, and that might be enough for Vhagar to sense, if you will, that he's free or away from that haunted place and come back to him. I fully expect them to reunite. I'm dubious of whether or not it will be at Harrenhal.
Right on, yeah. We'll have to see how they handle it for sure, and I think Alice would certainly prefer that he have his dragon. I think whatever she wants from him, he's more able to do via having Vhagar, but maybe not. Maybe there's other things she has in mind. Certainly, the passage of time was implied by the final fight that he's capable of doing that. He certainly is exhausted by the end, but this is referred to directly. Alice says, "Oh, you seem to be feeling better," So yeah, even more evidence of time passing. A good bit since that balcony scene, I suppose. And Vhagar is still out there all this time. One other theory I could throw out there is, he feels a little trapped, and the dragon is flying free, sort of as like a stir craziness kind of thing. Maybe thinking on more of a basic animal level. But I think a lot of valid theories exist. Let's talk about Vhagar a little bit specifically rather than just Aemon's side of things. It's a good reminder that even the largest dragon in Westeros can go off and hide, and it's really not hard to believe at all. I mean, Westeros is full of depopulated / sparsely populated areas / places generally hard to reach for humans / even if people do see her, how quickly does word spread, right? I mean, a couple of days and she's already moved on. That's exactly what we see with these examples of them finding where she's been. By the time the word spreads, it's far too late. Vhagar's already moved on, especially if she's just stopping in for a snack, just having a few sheep or something, or some goats. That's no reason for her to hang out very long. Wendish Town is mentioned, and Wendish Town is interesting. It's apparently, as we said earlier, the same site that Kristen Cole's army passes through. It's not actually Wendish Town. It's a village on the outskirts of Wendish Town. So it's like something like in the greater Wendish Town area, you could say, the greater Wendish metropolitan area. What's funny, too, and it gives it a little extra irony for the show plotline here, is we don't actually know where Wendish Town is in the books. It's just referred to a few times, but there's never enough context to narrow it down. So that's kind of funny that it has this sort of liminal space in Westeros too. And was that the same place Kristen passed through? Is it the same place? I don't know. We don't even know where this is. So that all adds to the effect, I think. Frank Wizza says, Cole's a coward. He has shown he's strength except against a gay man and an old man in single combat. Yeah, right. He's got to. Let's see him actually have some real fights here, right? when they know he's coming, he's like sneaking up on people. Yeah, that was actually something they mentioned in the BTS too. That Cole's just so fired up that he's got so much violence pent up in him about this, and he's just so ready. That's why he slit Lord Piper's throat and then stabbed him in the back several times. Like, dude, he's dead. Like that, you can't recover from the throat slit. You don't have to do anything else, but he's just so, yeah. They showed like I forget which mafia movie it was, where they just had like 5 different guys, Goodfellas, where they all just go at this body. Like
happened in a casino too, and Joe Pesci stabbed the guy in the neck over and over again.
It's like, he's dead. It's like literally beating a dead horse, but not a horse.
I take exception in many ways to Frank's comment here, but I don't want to spend all the time on it.
Your opinion is well known. We're going to let Frank have his say, too. Bela and Adam, let's talk about this. We've talked around them, but let's focus on them. This is a good example of the kind of character interaction we crave, the kind of character action that makes it feel more like classic Game of Thrones, where we have characters who are not as central. When we see them, they're usually with central characters, and that central character is the important person in that scene, not them. So here we have them kind of not equal in rank, but equal in terms of their importance as characters, I think, roughly. So we love the main cast, but the show is better served when the secondary cast is used frequently, right? We want to know how they're affected by what the main cast does and by everything else. We want to know that everyone's not the same. Yeah, it's more interesting when there's more people involved.
Can I tell you, Aziz? I agree with that because I always do want the secondary cast to be featured, but I also want there to be a point where the secondary cast becomes the main cast.
Yeah, fair.
You know, to a certain extent. Like, I want them to be where you can't say whether they're on the first tier or the second tier at a certain point, that they've gotten so rich and had so much. And I feel like that's where they've really dropped the ball regularly, that the characters don't get that. So this was, I think, my favorite of the season so far, just because of, like, I feel like it deepened so many of these.
You made me feel like characters. You could see their next step.
Yes, that I can see, like, in season 4, Bela is featured, or Adam, you know what I mean?
Something
like, I can see that.
Yeah, okay, sure.
It's so interesting you say it, because I had the thought watching this scene of how interesting it would be to tell this story from Bela's perspective. We've mostly seen it from Rhaenyra, Alicent, maybe a couple of the people, but it would be interesting to have this story told throughout from her perspective.
I agree. And we get something of it here, because that's what you're saying. Like, part of what makes that interesting is we get some of her perspective here, and it's like, hey, well, if we had more, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, it was great hearing her talk about how she wanted to be a hero. We got and a little bit inside of what her thought process was, which we thought there was some of that, but we thought maybe there was also some of Jace's pressure. But we knew she'd been kind of bursting to get out there and get some action. But it was nice to see her think of it as pride, which I think she goes a little too far in one direction about it. To see her thoughts about how she was going to be queen. She was going to be queen, and she just kind of blows it all up. Yeah, it was a really cool scene. And then to see Adam's perspective on it, and as someone who wasn't raised in court.
And Adam is sort of flip-flop with her. His rank is below her, but in terms of how Rhaenyra sees them, Bela points it out. She's someone she won't look at. Rhaenyra won't look at Bela. She reminds her of pain and failure and betrayal, whereas Adam is her talisman. The dragon came in her hour of need. So their roles have flip-flopped somewhat in terms of their standing in that sense.
She does, like, blaming herself for pride, as you say, might be going too far. I think because it wasn't purely pride. There was some pride there, and she can identify that and feels guilt or shame over it. But there were the other things also. You could say the same of Cole and Damon and a bunch of other people who pride is an element of their motivations, but it's not their only motivation. I mean, maybe sometimes a moment of too much pride might push them to a mistake, and maybe that's how she feels. And then now that she's made the mistake and feels this regret, she's hyper fixated on it. But there are she also wanted to protect Jay. She also wanted to win the battle. She also, pride aside, et cetera, And
it's funny. I think her sister Rhaena also has had that theme in her story. I think she's been all about pride to her detriment and gain, I guess. Both.
And to be a hero, yeah. I thought they could help. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the things that Bela said could have been said by Rhaena. Not all of them. Like, I was meant to be queen, or all that. But yeah,
in and of itself, pride, much like ambition and other attributes, aren't necessarily bad. But it's easy for them to become bad or get mixed up with other combinations that are bad and get so on and so on. But it's pride can motivate people to do great things, right? Ambition can motivate people to do great things, but can also motivate them to do terrible things.
Yeah. A certain amount is too. Yeah, it's one of those things like aspirin. Too much, too little's no good. Too much is bad. You gotta have the right amount. Yeah. Okay. So here's a question I have about this scene. I don't think anything's coming from Bela, but Adam is definitely protective of her, and it might be like romantic. Like, is he flirting? Did you get a flirting vibe here? I definitely don't think she flirted back, because she's just like intense about this. She's just like solving this problem, which is very consistent. She's very type A. She's like, I got to solve this. I got to figure this out. I'm searching. We're on our mission. And that's part of where the protectionism comes from. Is like, we're trying too hard. You're working yourself to death, blah, blah, blah.
I'll weigh in first, and then you, Sean, quickly will both say, I think, how can he ignore she's a beautiful woman, yada, yada. I genuinely think Adam, it's showing just that Adam is a really good, decent guy. I think if Bela was Balon and it was a boy that he'd been flying around with, they've bonded for a long time and had lots of conversations, I think he would have said very similar things, just because he's a kind and decent man. But I don't mean to say that he doesn't have eyes and can't see that she's beautiful and eligible now, or maybe anything like that. I think his motivations were very pure.
Right. I'm not implying ambition here with wanting to like be attracted. I think it's genuinely he just likes her. Yeah. So yeah, that's not, to be clear, that's not my implication either.
He's just naturally so charismatic. Anyone he talks to, he's flirting with. No, he's very, very, very likable.
And of course, he's going to talk about them flying away into exile together. His name is Clinton Liberty. They have to go off and be free.
I did detect it a little bit too. In my mind, like, oh, is he trying to, it seems like to whatever extent he might be, envisioning himself with her in the long run, which seems a reasonable thing for him to start doing. Like they're connected in these royal families. They're both dragon riders. They're getting to know each other. He respects her tenacity, on and on and on. It's all kinds of, and physical beauty, all these things. I still think just like we said, a running theme. You can have multiple motivations, right? He could be enamored with her and want to flirt with her, but also respect her position and realize it's inappropriate or this is the right, all these other things, but still flirt a little. I do feel like he pretty quickly covered. He's like, hey, maybe there's a new path. Maybe we run off into the sunset together. But first, let's eat. Like he's still like, let me cover up my little flirt with an immediate pressing moment. I think that it does make me wonder in general, as I watch the show, I'm wondering where these characters are going to end up in the long run. And I don't think it's far fetched to think these end up as a couple for, a number of reasons, some of which I already mentioned, but I don't know if I expect that to become a plot line. That might be a better way to frame this question. Is the flirting, whether or not he's flirting with her right now, is that going to become a piece of the plot line moving forward? And I don't know. I give it at least a 10% chance.
I think anyone that apparently rides that dragon, Sea Smoke, just eventually runs off into exile or talks about it, right? That's just how it goes, like that.
Can I say it's another?
Did no.
It's another thematic element. Cole offered to Rhaenyra, let's just leave all this behind us and go off. Basically, that's what Gwaine was offering to Cole. That's what Alicent is trying to do with Helena. Like the idea of all this trouble and stress and violence and we can just forget this and just go somewhere else. He's throwing that out there, but he does recognize we have our obligations right now first. But it does seem to be something he's angling for.
And she, as I said at the beginning, she doesn't really respond to those things. She seems more like, she kind of like laughs it off even a little bit, but mostly she just keeps focused on what she's saying. She talks about how, she's probably going to be married off to some old Lord of Pike or whatever. Now, that's an interesting comment. In the book is a young Lord of Pike, but they might be just about to have the old Lord die, and that would change things. Either way, it's not actually that likely. She's just throwing a name out like, I'm going to be married off to somebody.
I think she's just thinking of the worst possible place, which is an old man and a Greyjoy and Ironborn. That's it. It's just some old Ironborn.
A house that's highly enough ranked, but one that would be used to punish her at the same time and get them some money.
And one that's likely to have a treasure squirreled away. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what she said, to pay the crown's debts. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all. There's a lot there. And it's quite a different. This is why we compared it to Cole. Like Cole's future is now he pivots from what he was creating a new regime to death and battle. She was also going to be the queen, and now she's the highborn version of pivoting to, I'm going to have married off to someone I really hate and live the rest of my life that, which is also pretty bad, and has less agency than Kristen Cole's version. So that's an interesting little thematic comparison there that just goes to show what Kristen was saying. It's hard to not have these people in charge of you, even when you're one of them.
Yeah, she's a princess of the realm, and just the same as we saw with Alicent and with Helena and with we've just countless
all the way back to Rhaenys telling him that's how it was going to be.
Exactly.
It reminds me a little bit. I don't know if they intended this, but it's the way we're kind of framing things. When Aemon asked Alice, am I a prisoner? And she didn't give him an answer. There's a certain irony that he's a prince, if not a king, with a dragon, and just some woman in a castle can hold him prisoner, or he certainly feels that way. And, Rhaena's a princess with a dragon, but she can still just get married off to some dude she doesn't want anything to do with. Is she a prisoner? I don't know. What does it mean to be a prisoner?
Gilded cage type thing. Yeah. Well said. So this stuff about Vhagar and Harrenhal comes full circle to Lady Sabbath Frey, who we mentioned at the beginning. Her arrival solves a mystery, resolves a dangling plot thread, resumes a new, or presumably begins a new one. So we'll pivot to King's Landing and everything happening there. They have, that is, the King's Landing scenes, increasingly more to do with what's going on in the city and not just the Red Keep, but there's quite a bit of both. The episode reveals what we've suspected, that Lord Ormond is the one playing at intrigue. It was pretty well established, especially the more Larry Strong is on the road, the less likelihood that he's running this sort of game. Ormond is actually holed up in a place where he's sending and receiving letters of all kinds. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And of course, we already mentioned the bit about Prince Joffrey and how Rhaenyra has not been seeing him. Any takes on that, though, before we move on to the larger issues at King's Landing? Rhaenyra's mothering. Is she worried about the burden she's about to place on her children? Her child who's even younger than Jace? Is it guilt? Is it danger? Is it all those things?
Well, here,
you go first, Jay.
Yeah, I'll have you note that when she finds out that Joffrey is back, it's right when she just fought with Daemon. Like, she's hot. She's, like, not in the state of mind to go see her son, I think, one. Like, she's just very heated. It's immediately then. You can see she's, like, kind of, like, stunned to realize he's there. And she has to make this decision on whether she sees him. And she's got more pressing things to do. And I think she is right to not go see him when she's not stable. Because I think that is important for him to not have her be short with him the first time she sees him, but then she puts it off too long and he's asleep by then, and I think that is her being avoidant, and that is because I think she's worried she'll break down around him.
Yes.
They talk about the death of Jace. She hasn't seen him since Jace died. Think about all of these conversations that she'll have to have, and so no, I think she's
a lot.
I think there's a pragmatism to it. And I think it protects Joffrey and hurts Joffrey simultaneously, and a great sadness to it as well, that she is scared to be around him and to open up her wound, I
agree. Yeah, well said. Sean, what do you think?
My first read, to follow what Shay was saying, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, but I read it different at first. Not only did she just have the argument with Daemon, but she left the council meeting to have that argument. She's got to go back. She still has to run the round. She still has these people waiting for her, decisions to make, appointments, war strategy. All this stuff is still happening. I read it more as like, she just doesn't have time to go be a mom right now. Maybe she could or should, but it's part of the burden of the throne. Alicent wasn't a good mom. Viserys wasn't a good dad. Like, it's hard when you have all these responsibilities and burdens to go check in on your young kid. And maybe she should have, but when you add these other factors you guys are talking about, like one of her son's first questions might be, why'd you send me away? I haven't seen you in so long. I miss you, Mama. Can we play tomorrow? Like, she's just going to continue having other responsibilities to keep her from keeping up with him. And she probably regrets that, dreads facing it, doesn't know what to say to him. It's all these things. I don't think it's purely she's, avoidant or scared to deal with them. It's partly those things, but partly she just doesn't have enough hours in a day, that by the time she went to see him, and maybe she kind of knew that he would be asleep. Maybe she hoped he'd be awake, but
I think she definitely knew he was going to be asleep.
Yeah, I think she hoped he'd be asleep.
I think that was intentional. Yeah, It was very late. Yeah, I don't think there's any way. But to add to what you're saying, Sean, I think you're right. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but this isn't just mothering. He is literally the heir to the throne, too. He has to be prepared in that sense as well. It's not, and of course you have to get through that emotional stuff to talk to him as a child before you can talk to him as a prince.
And has to be prepared as a bastard. He probably doesn't have the same insight that Jace and Luke had of who they really were, right?
He missed a lot of that. You're right.
Yeah,
he was too young for some of that.
But he he's gonna become aware of it one way or the other, right? He's going to.
Yeah, depending on what he already knows.
Is Rhaenyra the one that should present that to him? How quickly does she present that to him? Is he even old enough to understand it right now? There are a lot of challenges for her to raise this kid. And there are a lot of other challenges for her aside from raising this kid.
She's got to tell him the prophecy, right?
Talk about that burden.
Yeah, so it's a lot of conversations to have with. I don't know how old he's meant to be here.
It's a lot lost when Jace died, for sure. There was so much preparation. It's not just the human life, her son. It was all this preparation for the realm.
I guess people in the chat ask, did someone tell Joffrey about Jace, or is that still going to be broken to him?
I think he would have to know,
right?
But
I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe not. Yeah,
they made a point of Jace's preparation to him learning Valyria and stuff like that.
Yep, you're right.
Being present in the council meetings and having a word in the council, unlike Rhaenyra, right? When she was there, she was a cupbearer. When she said something, she was shut down. Jace actually got preparation that Rhaenyra didn't get.
Yeah, he didn't get enough either, but that was maybe part of why she didn't get enough, or part of why he didn't get enough is that she got almost none. Yeah. So there's a just before the council scene with Sabbath the Frey where that Harrenhal loose end is resolved. She had been promised Harrenhal by Jace, but I guess this is Master of Laws that she's offered because we don't have any other positions open.
I assume Master of Laws for sure, right? She seems like the kind of lady that would be decent at that too, right?
Yeah, she seems a stickler, which maybe that's a good quality to have as a Master of Laws to a certain degree.
There are so many walk and talks in this episode because you get it with Rhaenyra a lot, and you get it with Daemon and Luther as well.
It's a good way to show things are busy, and things are happening.
Get some pickle jar heroes.
Yeah. So this leads to comedy, like she's mad but backs down when she realizes she's complained a little too much. Rhaenyra gets exasperated. Sir Adrian Redford. Yeah, she's like, and she realizes she's gone too far, and the Kingsguard gives her a look afterwards. It's like,
who do you think you are?
Yeah, like remember who you are, Lady Frey. Yeah, look at that, there it is. And she's like, she's not too discomfited by it, but she got the message, certainly.
This actress was really good, Sarah Woodward or whatever. She was very funny in this role. A lot of like big eye movements, and her and Torrin whispering was really, really funny. A highlight.
They were Statler and Waldorf or something, yeah. They're like, they were whispering like loudly, like, oh, the whore. Yeah.
I want to point out too that kind of like talking over the other happenings. On one hand, it makes a little sense, right? Torrin needs to fill her in. It's her first meeting. She seems like she just arrived. She doesn't know who these people, what the etiquette is, on and on. So he's kind of giving her the tea, right? But he's doing it in the middle of other people talking, including Daemon, who has already kind of put Manderley in his place. He's trying to convey this information he's kind of passionate about, and they're talking. But the thing they happen to be saying at that moment is that Massari is a whore. Yeah. And I think Daemon let him get away with it for that reason.
He's like, well, that you
It would have been in bigger trouble if they had been talking about something differently.
And he does that thing where he's like, all right, I'm done talking. Yeah. But then they're not done talking. Yeah. He says, yeah, there it is. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm done. But she says, sea snakes, bastard, dragon rider, legitimized by. He's like whispering. It's great. It's so funny. You can hear him. You have to watch the scene twice to hear all the dialogue because they are.
It's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's unusual in filmmaking to have talking at the same time because it's hard to interpret it once, but with modern streaming or whatever, we could pause and rewind and double check it. So
I thought this was great because it gives you an insight into kind of how these characters are seen by the court, which you could kind of have guessed, but it is nice to have that type of thing confirmed, what people are whispering to one another in the halls of King's Landing and further.
Mm-hmm.
A lot was conveyed there very well.
And as we said before, their great moment is punctuated by, is it always like this? Which he also doesn't say very quietly, She just says that out loud kind of insultingly, and he's like, right? As for what they actually discussed at the council, they discuss Vhagar, Kristen Cole, Lord Ormond, the Gold Cloak's brutality, and the Gold Cloaks getting murdered. This leads to Daemon and Rhaenyra arguing over both priority and authority, some of which we've already discussed. But like you mentioned, Sean, this is a very good observation. Unlike last time where she cleared the room and said, give us the room, this time he stalked out. He's like, oh, I've got stuff to do. I got to go do it now. I'm ready to go. She has to follow him in order to make her point that, like, look, I'm still the authority and there's a problem with people respecting my authority. So you can't be the one to disrespect my authority. Like, you can't be the exception here. You got to be backing me up on that. Like, even when I'm wrong, you got to back me up. And she was, as it turns out, wrong. And she admits it, at least on the issue of which is a higher priority, the Goldcloaks murders or Vhagar. And you also got to appreciate what he says about, will you let yourself be rattled by vapid taunts? He gives her a talking to about discipline, about not being rattled by words. And yes, she is very concerned with legitimacy and she sees it as a strike against that. But I agree with Damon. People have been saying this about her for decades. It's just because it was written on a wall doesn't really change that much. Like, people aren't like, oh my gosh, graffiti. Nobody really takes graffiti that seriously. Like, we all have seen graffiti. It's just like, it's just there, you know, like people have political slogans. I mean, it's not nothing.
Admittedly, this first scene we see with Ulf, people are crowded around and like, oh, what does this say? And he has to ask what it says. But I think then it's just probably normalized and no one cares. But
yeah,
I think
the guy just was dismissed.
I think
like,
it was somewhat unusual.
People who can't get over their loss. Yeah, you're right.
Unusual because the materials aren't as cheap as it would be in our day. So it is like a bigger deal to have the resources paint to do this. But I still don't think it's as big a deal as she's making it.
Yeah, and so that's what Damon was getting at. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't maybe I wouldn't agree with exactly how he says it, but overall, the strategy of don't be rattled by these attempts to rattle you. That's what they're specifically trying to rattle you. So don't let them rattle you. Like whatever method they use, don't let it work. You know, Sean?
I do want to. I generally agree with all that, but I do want to say that there is a lot of graffiti. Two things. One, the framing of this scene, the placement of this scene. This is immediately part of our concern there is like her legitimacy. And we immediately are told, hey, your bastard son's here now. Like, I think it's just another reminder. It's not just that it's rattling her. It's not just a personal offense. She's worried about her son's rule and even life or well-being, right? Like it is a factor, even if she's overvaluing it, it's not like it's nothing. And same thing with graffiti. Usually when we see graffiti, you know, it's on a train or a bridge, and maybe this graffiti is also on a train or a bridge, but there's a reason you don't see graffiti on the front of the White House, right? There's more protection to stop it. It's more, it gets brought down more quickly. And if it was there, it would be more impactful. You know, if you graffiti in some places and some graffiti, you know, with someone tagging her name or something.
If you're right, Romans go home all over the forum. Like in The Life of Brian. Yes, you definitely. Yeah, you're right, Sean. It does matter. I don't think anyone's arguing that it doesn't matter. And neither was Damon even. Damon just said, I will deal with this, but after I deal with this. And he also told her, he's also like, yeah, the Goldcloaks were too brutal. He agreed with that. Like that wasn't necessarily her fault, but Damon was like, you should have been more clear with your orders because those guys, I mean, I taught them, and even Luther points that out. He's like, you taught us. He's like, well, that's true, but you still could have known better. You know? So ultimately, it's kind of a failure of leadership all around in terms of what the Goldcloaks did, but solving it going forward, you know, it's an opportunity for them to lead more carefully. They've certainly, hopefully won't repeat that same mistake.
I'm sure we'll get more into this, but I do want to call back to when I was wondering how much the Goldcloaks were loyal to Daemon versus Luther was loyal to Daemon. It's pointed out that most of the Goldcloaks weren't even born yet when you were here. And also their loyalty was more seemingly about free reign to go chop people up and take their stuff than his great leadership per se. You know, I know it's not that simple, but I do want to point out we see the cracks in the quote unquote loyalty to Daemon here.
Definitely. Like, as you said, Luther was skeptical that a speech would work. Daemon just gave a great speech. He just kind of nailed it. He hit the bullseye. But now...
did he, though? Like, it worked on a few people, but clearly not all the people. They're clearly still Hightower supporters in this midst.
No, I mean that. No, I don't think that's true. There's not Hightower supporters in the Gold Cloaks midst. I don't think that's what we're being told. There might be. I don't think that's clear though. I think it worked in terms of it got them fired back up to go do their job. That's undeniable. What they'll do now that speech happened and then something much worse happened remains to be seen. So maybe it was maybe it's going to backfire ultimately because it went so badly afterwards, but we haven't seen the reaction yet. But do you think that's the case? I mean, it's an interesting idea that there are some of the Gold Cloaks are High Towers too, but I hadn't really. I don't think that was implied.
It only takes 2 or 3 guys. Like when Rhaenyra's coming and Alicent's making these moves, and the commander of the Gold Cloak says we're doing X, and 4 captains say okay, we'll take XYZ action because of X. And 1 lieutenant's like, what? This is bullshit. I'm not, I guess I kind of have to. But in his mind, he might be suspicious the whole time, knows he's got to be careful what he says, but gets contacted by Ormond or whoever and is like, heck yeah, I'll kill these traitors. I'll take the right side, or on. And it would explain why they keep getting people suddenly, secretly. I mean, if you have an insider or two, they know the guard routes or the whatever,
It's possible. I just don't know that we've.
What's happening here,
I think it makes a lot of sense. I just don't think we've actually seen it, so we'll have to see if they go that way because they haven't shown us any. Like we see inside those guys' house and everything, like the conspirators, and there's that indication isn't there yet. But again, I agree, it would make sense, but I don't think we've seen it.
One of those guys, like I don't know if or what or how much difference there is between Gold Cloaks and City Guard, but that guy. Okay, then certainly, because that was the guy that was standing there when Alicent came and told them, stand down when the dragons come.
He's a Hightower guard. I can show you him.
Oh, is this Sir Soren?
I don't know if he's been given a name.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Word. Yeah, but that guy I felt like they lingered on him a little in that moment. I was expecting
Is that the same guy?
That he was going to fire some bolt at a dragon after all.
This isn't the guy she spoke to. This isn't the guy that spoke, but he's a guy that we saw at Hightower garb.
He's the guy that prodded the guy who was being bribed or that was being told to stand down. The older guy was being told to stand down, and that guy was like, Sir Frederick, what are we doing? And then Frederick says, yeah, we're backing down, basically. Or he didn't say anything, but when the time came, they walked off, yeah.
So I guess that guy's not a Gold Cloak, but he might have an into the Gold Cloaks. He probably has friends. He probably has awareness, position, whatever, money to spend. I mean, he might be the one who's been. Well,
they definitely have money to spend.
All along,
They definitely have money to spend. That's true. So I like that piece of connective tissue that I didn't notice that's that same guy. Very good catch, y'all. That's that same guard. It would make sense that some of the ones that were the most loyal are the ones that are recruited. Now they may not. The reason they may not use the City Watch is they may just not think it's viable. They may be worried about, like, maybe that's how that guy got caught. The one that they did catch was he was trying to working in with the city guard themselves.
Can I ask you a question about the message he sends, Ormond?
Yeah, I was kind of curious about the wording of that too.
Yeah, what does it mean? He says, gold blood spilled, 3 marked in the tally. The account lies open? I just don't get the account lies open.
I think the account lies open means they're going to keep killing more.
Okay.
Okay. Gold blood spilled.
The rest makes perfect
that's straightforward,
sense.
Yeah.
It's just the last sentence.
Okay.
It's just a weird turn of phrase to me. Maybe just meant to sound old timey.
I think maybe it's also just there's no our progress is not hindered.
They're not onto us yet.
The account lies open. Okay, that makes sense.
We can keep doing this because they haven't figured it out. They haven't caught us. We still have our inside man, whatever it is.
Cool. Okay, I like that. Well, we'll almost certainly learn more, but I think we're mostly together on that. If you are new here, check out our website, historyofwesteros.com. That is where you can find a lot of great ways to support us, as well as news as to what's happening with our show. Stuff like the aforementioned Hugo nomination that we are up for, which again, you can become a WSFS member to facilitate that. You can sign up to be a patron and get bonus episodes. You can check out what we've done in the past, and you can check out a lot of things that we recommend. So very good place to go when you want to keep up with History of Westeros and the Westeros-y things that we keep track of at our website. That is, once again, historyofwesteros.com. check it out and find what's right for you. Let's get back to it. We've got a couple questions here. Diana D says, I'm really enjoying the inverse acting arcs of Aegon and Aemond. Aegon gets more interesting the more angry and driven he becomes. Aemond is more interesting the more he falls to pieces. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think part of that is the actors too. But yeah, the writing is been very solid for that. It's shown their laid that groundwork so that when Aegon got to this, he is more interesting because of what he did before. And the same with Aemond, is because they were both what they were to start with, and where they've gone has been very interesting. Any comment on that, either of you guys? Brian Valco, 40. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I did want to say I do appreciate that comment. That is it. That's the type of thing I wonder and hope was intentional to have them go on, I don't know, slightly different paths. And it's, I like the word parallel because sometimes opposite things happening can still be a parallel. Does that make sense? Like one thing going up and another thing going down is still sort of a parallel.
Yeah, like a mirror, like a parallel. Reverse, like that.
Like sometimes you see thing A is happening with character B and you see thing A is happening with character 1 and thing A is happening with character 2. And that can be a parallel. But you can also see A happening with character 1 and Z happening with character 2. And it's also parallel, even though it's an opposite parallel, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Brian Velko adds, I like to think Lady Frey's outfit is out-of-date style, like she was wearing a poodle skirt.
I definitely think that too. It's also just like an old style, and it harkens to, of course, our beloved Queen of Thorns, Olenna Tyrell, who also wore, an older lady's style.
Right on.
And was also a sassy kind of snarky lady. And I also want to, while I'm right here, we haven't gotten to feature any of the cats on screen very much. I just want to point out all the very cute cats of the Red Keep and say I saw on Twitter, I'm sure you can find it elsewhere, a cat's eye view of the Red Keep where they put a camera on one of the cats and show like the view the cats get as they run around.
No way.
It's really brief. It's like 30 seconds. But yeah, I can't get enough of the cats. I can't get enough of hearing a meow here and there. I'm like on constant cat watch, but you better believe that.
Okay, let's talk about our actual favorite scene. Here, we like to do that. Sean, we will start with you. Which scene would you like to highlight as your favorite?
There were a few really good ones, but the one that, for whatever reason, a lot of the Gwen Cole ones I would list as contenders, but we've gotten plenty of discussion about them. But when Loras level with Aegon, I really like that. And I really like, the kind of cutting these scenes up into little snippets and we're jumping back and forth between plot lines. Again, much more original Game of Thrones style. Incidental side note that a lot more of House of the Dragon so far has been centered in the same location. And over time, they're spreading out more and here more than ever. And it makes it a little different than... a little closer to Game of Thrones as opposed to the earlier seasons of this or Night of the Seven Kingdoms, for example. But this particular one, I really like how this culminated in him telling Aegon off. It was like really well. I want to give Loras credit, but I should give the writers credit for the speech. But it was really well put. It really kind of went through things well, the reality of how Aegon's been, and that Loras is kind of losing motivation to Loras might have a lot to gain, right? By saving Aegon and getting control or some, whatever his ulterior or long-term motives are, but he's not going to get there if he gets killed. And Aegon is just continuing to make terrible choices that are going to end up getting Loras killed, and Loras just had enough. And, I wonder how much this was calculated, if Loras expected this to turn Aegon around or if he just didn't care and felt the need to say it to him. I wonder how much Loras maybe was reflecting on himself with Loras, like, I'm a terrible man, But if I'm calling you terrible, you're really terrible.
Yeah, Larys burned his family alive, lest we forget. Larys is a terrible man, but he's a competent man. And Aegon is an incompetent terror. Like, he is just like a mess of a human being is what Larys just can't. It's not that he's a terrible man as in he does despicable things. That's not what Larys cares about. It's not about any of that. It's just that he's
terrible with no plan, with no result, with no. At least be terrible to make yourself king. At least be terrible to get people's respect or whatever it is. You just do it to do it, just because you're like mean and lazy. Like you gotta do.
And Larys is someone who's dealt with disability his entire life, and so he is just like tough love about it with Aegon. He's like, no, you're not. You're whining. You're like. I'm putting up with this with my foot. And you even see when he takes that moment where he's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And he sits down, he's like, okay. And he does it with difficulty. And that's something he's dealt with his entire life. And he's raised up to here. And he just has no respect for Aegon, which was very well played. I really, really loved this scene too, Sean. It's one of my favorite scenes of the episode as well. So I'm glad you picked it.
And there's extra, I don't know, like irony in it all or frustration in Larys. When Aegon's like, oh, my brother had all these advantages, and that's the only reason. It's like, wait, you had more advantages than him. You were the firstborn son. You didn't get your eye cut out. Like, you could and should have been more than him. And instead, you're way, way worse than him. And yet feel like you've been done wrong. Get out of here.
I felt that as much as Aemond roasted Aegon, Larys roasted him even worse right here.
Oh yeah, Vhagar did not burn him as badly as Larys just did. I mean, Larys burned Harrenhal. He knows. He's like, Larys burned Harrenhal. He's like, Vhagar burned Harrenhal. Larys is very competitive with Vhagar, it seems.
The Larys varies parallels.
But I also appreciate
Larys Vhagar. Sorry.
Yeah.
I also appreciated in that scene just him clutching Sunfire's a scale that whole time, And I want to say that if you hadn't said it, I would have said all of basically what you just said, Sean. I loved that scene. And I've already talked at length about the Gwen and Cole trudging around stuff and how much I loved it. So for my favorite scene, I'm going to say the Alicent and Mysaria stuff, because I felt that I was so surprised to get it. I didn't expect to see scenes of them together or to get multiple scenes of them together. It had great comedy in it, in that and Mysaria watching Alicent drink the moon tea when Mysaria knew well what was going on. She's watching her like in disbelief and kind of amused, like she's really doing it. She's really committed to the lie, so I liked that. But then of course just them leveling with each other, or Alicent leveling with her and being like, hey, look, you might want to have some other contingency plans. You might not want to burn every potential avenue to you. Like, think about this. And we're both powerless. And yeah, it was really interesting, and I especially thinking about Alicent looking at Mysaria, thinking like, this is Rhaenyra's lover. Like, there's this undercurrent there that, like, if Alicent's thinking of that, I don't know. I found it so intriguing to think about what was rippling below the surface as they spoke to each other. Right?
I agree with you. I'll save my thoughts on that one because I've got a lot written down already. But I totally agree. It was unexpected, but I regret thinking of it as unexpected. It makes so much sense. I certainly keyed in on Alicent and Orwyle having a connection because they'd already had a connection. Mysaria and Alicent had a connection too. It was just an adversarial one, mostly one-sided. But that maybe should have been the clue that with free reign of the Red Keep and to her job being to watch over people, of course she's going to watch over the captives at first to maybe gloat a little bit, but then the gloating is what leads to bigger and better things and more interesting things, which I'll talk about later. My favorite, Alice and Aemond. I loved it. I was waiting for it. A lot of us were. We were hoping for this plot line to go in some interesting places. So far, it very much has. More to come, very much likely as well. And it just had some of the most, in addition to being great character work and showing a part of Aemond we haven't really seen, though we sort of sensed was there based on the past. So it was neat having confirmation of that, seeing it sort of fully take wing in a sense, and having those just awesome shots mixed in. The great shots of Harrenhal, the balcony, the gloom, the sound, the vibe was all around spooky and cool for that stuff.
Yeah, the sound mix was good in that with like the dragon sound, creaky sounds, the draftiness, right? Yeah, there was sound. It was great.
Can I make a couple comments on that Alicent Mysaria scene too? To your point, Aziz, about how you almost feel like you should have seen that coming. That to me is a sign of great writing. I think no show has ever done it better than Better Call Saul. But when as things happen, sometimes you're surprised. But when you reflect on them, they were inevitable. Like, of course that happened. I really love when that happens in a show. And I agree, this is an exact moment like that. Of course, these two are going to have a moment with each other. Also, it reminds me of a thought I had about Sansa, about how, all her siblings are running around with horses and swords, kind of, none of them are kind of they're all sort of getting the wish they wanted, but it's not what they thought it was going to be. But they at least have a sort of independence, where Sansa was a prisoner. We've talked about this before, more so, I think, even in someone like in chains or whatever. Like, she was facing physical abuse moment to moment. And still was kind of navigating her way through it, trying to make moves and learning from it and stealing her resolve and so forth. But she didn't have the experience that Alicent does, right? Alicent has been in a similar situation, not quite the prisoner she is now, but she's been in this position of having to figure out how to exert power when she doesn't quite have it. She's not really the king. She's just a woman, but she knows what needs to be done and has been trying to get it done. And she's been knocked down, several rungs here, but still she's not giving up. She's still looking for every angle she has and is good at finding them. And I would say is acting for the good here. She's trying to protect her daughter and her daughter's child. And this angle of Mysaria, it's partly maybe like conniving or petty, but also what else can she do? She can't take out her sword and charge with a horse, right? This is her angle, her wit and her cunning and her insight. It's all she has, and she's using it well. And even Mysaria, who herself is cunning and witty, sees Alicent's angle. And I think Alicent knew that she would, or hoped that she would. She had to take this. She had to hedge her bets, even if Mysaria is like, oh, I'm still telling, and I'm telling you, tried to bribe me too. Like, it's still the correct play to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really like the Syvass scene. We'll just talk about that one in more detail when we get there. Let's talk more in detail about the murder plot here. The murders are very particular. They're not random in terms of how the people are killed. They're all being killed in a specific way, with throats cut, bowels spilled. And that's intentional because it's gross in a way that can't be ignored. It smells really, really bad, and it gets people around to notice. And that draws attention. If you look at the scene where Daemon and Luthor are having their walk and talk, that gets interrupted by them coming across a pair of dead bodies. Look behind them. There's people that are gagging and covering their mouths. And this leads to the scene of the speech that we talked about earlier. Luthor doesn't think it's going to work. He's wrong, but sort of right. He's wrong that the speech will work, because it does work, but then he's right that the danger is greater than it seems and that it won't be enough, because he's right for the wrong reason, we'll say. He reminds them it is a good speech. He's good at this sort of thing. We've seen him do it before. He's good at raising morale amongst people of fighting spirit, people who are kind of a warrior mentality, reminds them how important they are, how strong they are. And as Sean pointed out earlier, then offers the rewards. At first, it's reasonable. Double pay, it's not only reasonable given what they've been asked to go through, but it's very doable. That's totally not unreasonable at all. Like that, yeah, that's believable. But then he goes on that tangent. To him, it's not crazy. I think he's sincere, and that's part of what makes him sell it. Like, he said the same thing to Rhaenyra, and some of it's even believable, like Dorne. But then he gets into Essos and Valyria.
I'm brought again to him bringing up Dorne. He's convinced that they need to have a desert in their lands to have this girl in a desert.
So he believes. So that's part of what makes it work. Is he is sincere. He really thinks that they're going to do all those things. It isn't. It. On one hand, you can easily see, oh, that guy's just selling the pie in the sky, but he really does believe it himself. It also made me think of Duncan Egg when he said, "And then when the 7 kingdoms become 9 and 12." Of course, he goes on a lot farther than that, but yes. And it is an effective pushback, although only temporarily, against what Ormond is trying to do. Because Ormond is trying to unnerve them. He's trying to strike at morale, at Rhaenyra's legitimacy, and it's very effective. This speech is kind of a temporary Band-Aid. And at the time, they don't even know it's Ormond. They just suspect it's him. In between, they do confirm it. What we don't really learn is who the go-betweens are. I guess we did figure out one of them, that lieutenant, I suppose, captain of the one gate, or captain of that part of the battlements, the second in command. I'll call him a lieutenant. We don't know much about him, but we know where his loyalties lie. So that's straightforward enough. We do know there's a Varys-like element in what Ormond is doing, that he's willing to use children, as I said earlier, as little birds. There's one girl right there. That girl saw Daemon and Luthor, and when she saw them observe the corpse, she ran to tell this man. And then he sent his message. So I think that was important. That not only... They didn't wait to send the message to when the bodies were killed. They waited to let Daemon and Luthor see it. That's when the message got sent. So it's kind of like, yes, they're aware. We're making sure they see this. It's part of the plan is to have these bodies in broad daylight. That's mentioned, that the killings are being done in front of people, or not in front of people, but they're not being done at night. They're not being done with a great amount of stealth, which implies, other people are involved. That has the effect of increasing Rhaenyra's paranoia quite a bit, and which is sort of brought back to earth a little bit when we have a more direct face to attach to it, which again is Ormond. So, but we see the scale of this operation. It's really intense, right? You have so many people. Like, there's a whole house full of Hightower agents, for lack of a better word, doing stuff. And it's also during the scene that Daemon tells Luthor about how brutal his men were and that they needed to tone it down. We mostly spoke about that, but some important things are said in that. Luthor is encouraged to think more. Luthor pushes back with, we're not really taught that, and the men aren't being paid, so of course they're going to be extra violent. There's a bit of a reminder, a callback, one of many things that reminds us of different scenes throughout A Song of Ice and Fire in this episode. Tyrion also tells the Kingsguard to temper Joffrey Baratheon. He's like, they argue kind of similarly to what Luthor. It's like, we can't refuse the commands. He's like, I'm not telling you refuse them, just temper them, dial it down a little bit. If you're gonna follow an order that makes things worse, then that's an opportunity to maybe report it to somebody else, or at least do a milder version of that. Like, what Tyrion said was, hey, if he asks you to, saddle his horse, do it. If he asks you to kill his horse, talk to me first. It's kind of a similar kind of thing. The problem is, this wasn't, Joffrey. This was Rhaenyra. This isn't an underage queen, underage king. This is someone who just kind of was unthinking rather than someone who does this sort of thing all the time, like Joffrey does. So we get to the torture scene. Daemon tortures a guy. It's a very gory episode. There's lots of blood in this episode. It's a tough subject because, I don't know, like, in a war like this, is this even wrong? Like, this guy is a murderer who is going to facilitate more murders and awful murders. But we're supposed to be uncomfortable with it. Even Luthor Largen is uncomfortable. He does not like seeing this. He doesn't mind killing the guy at the end. In fact, he's almost like relieved. But he absolutely flinches at what Daemon is doing.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've made this point before. I was in intelligence in the army. This is not how you interrogate someone on so many levels. It's such a trope in TV, but when you're inflicting pain like this, I just tell you what you want to hear. They'll admit to what they know long before you pluck their eye out. They're making a point in the scene, but they make it worse because there's so much more information to get from this guy. Whether it's wrong to kill him or torture him, the fact is that, okay, when did you meet this guy? When did you get the letter? Who gave you that? There's so many more questions to ask this guy, and you just pluck his eye out and kill him, and you just lost your ability to track down the rest of the network of spies. one of the main things you do when you're interrogating someone is you tell them things that you already know, and it makes them feel more comfortable with telling you more because they think you already know it all anyways. That makes sense. So the more you get out of this guy, the next person you catch, you could say all these things you already know, and they feel like it doesn't matter if I tell you because you already know, and they don't want to get their eye plugged. Anyway, I could go on and on. This is terrible interrogation.
It is a trope, yeah. And I think I wonder if Daemon just pulled the guy's eye out and then started asking questions, like he didn't even ask a question first. Anyway, but I think the more interesting part here is the coin. Like, is it sloppy or arrogant or both for Ormond to pay his operatives in coins that give him away like this? I would say definitely not. I think he wanted them to find this out. First of all, he's already their prime suspect. There's only so much that he can do to throw them off the scent when he is the only real person capable of doing these things. This is the fake Daron guy, after all. They already know he's been sneaky and putting his army into Templeton. Rhaenyra is already like, what's his game? What's he doing? She already knows he's sneaky. Rhaenyra's other enemies are the burned guy with no dragon and the stabbed guy with no dragon, and neither of them have armies right now. She definitely perceives them as more dangerous than I just described it, but she's already said Ormond is the focus. She already said that he's the one she needs to most worry about. Now, think ahead, too. I'm not sure this is going to happen, but this is you could be what he's giving away by revealing the coins is something he can take back and use against them later. And this is what I was referring to in the beginning with Varys doing a plan like this. Now, again, I'm not sure this is going to happen because this isn't in the book. Lord Ormond has no lines in Fire and Blood. Daron only has a few lines, and they're very straightforward. Like, I will give you the same mercy you gave my now. Yeah, stuff like that. It's very straightforward. Not very informative as to their characters or their motivations. But now,
the point of those books was not character development; it was recounting of history. Right?
Exactly.
So the point of the show is character development.
Yes, you're totally right. Yeah, that wouldn't be as good a show if they did it that way. So I'm glad they have developed these characters a lot more. So Ormond's operatives can now put these coins on people who are innocent. Anytime, for at least in the short term. In the long term, that won't work because the coins will be just out there. But this is exactly how Varys got Cersei to suspect the Tyrells as the ones who let Tyrion escape. Because what happened? First, George established that Olenna, hey, we're mentioning her again, often paid for things in gold coins from the Gardener era because the Gardener era gold coins were half weight. So she was just bilking all these people and just daring them to do anything about it because she's the Queen of Thorns. She's the only one who does this. Then later, what happens? One of those, and then Varys is very sure to make sure Cersei knows this. And then what happens is one of these coins is planted in Rugen's quarters. Rugen is Varys in disguise, which Jaime figured out, but Qyburn's the one who found that coin. He's like, look what I did. I found this secret coin. And Cersei's like, Tyrells. It totally worked. They planted a coin and it absolutely got Cersei to believe the Tyrells were involved. So now that's the value of revealing himself this way, is that now they know those coins are out there and Daemon and or Rhaenyra and everybody else could be suspicious of anyone who turns up with those coins. Again, at least in the short term. This is more homages to A Song of Ice and Fire, apart from what I just described about Varys. Daemon Blackfyre had his own coins. Well, that's not A Song of Ice and Fire. That's, Knight of Seven Kingdoms history, Westeros history, but still, that counts as part of A Song of Ice and Fire. Fagon and Connington, there's lots of parallels here. The hair dye, keeping your secret heir, a tantrum during Syvas, that also happens in A Song of Ice and Fire. But to wrap up this scene, Daemon leaves, and as Sean is correct, it was silly for them to execute that guy. They should have gotten more questions out of him, but they were arrogant. They assumed there's something else they could get out of him. To be fair, the guy was like, hey, why are you killing me? I mean, he could have said that. Hey, I know more things. Keep me alive. But Daemon takes the coin, tosses it at Rhaenyra, and is kind of mad about it. He's like, I told you we should have burned them when we had the chance. And I told you guys he would use that. He would throw that in her face, if not use it as leverage. So far, he's only thrown it in her face. He hasn't used it as leverage yet, but we'll see. When he walks in the room to toss that coin, Rhaenyra is reading a book, and Alan is telling her about their plans to rebuild the Velaryon fleet. He says resources are light. And yeah, of course they are. Lots of stuff was destroyed. High Tide was destroyed. And she's reading a book related to this topic. Ashea zoomed and enhanced it. And we have... you want to read these?
Yeah, it's just it's a log of ships that they've lost. At first, I keyed in. I was like, Lady Rhaena. Did she learn about what happened to Rhaena? No, there's a ship named the Lady Rhaena. So it says, Ambition, galley taken by the enemy and put to sword. Lady Rhaena, galley consumed by dragonfire. Accounts say missing, last seen amongst smoke and dragonfire. King of Nowhere, galley shattered upon the rocks. Poisoned thorn, galley struck by bolts and sunk. Whirlwind, great cog, missing, presumed sunk, and then it says, blah, 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 of the Bay of Ice, longship consumed, consumed by flames. So yeah, it's a log of what Alan is telling her, all of these ships that are unaccounted for or just completely gone, and their names. So that was pretty cool to have.
Yeah, that was neat. A little connective tissue there. A little, just a quick scene talking about what's going on with the Velaryons. Nothing to really get deep into right now. Maybe something to think about when it makes more progress.
Can I, real quick, on the prior, set of topics we had with the secret agents and the murders of the Gold Cloaks and all that, and I wish I had given you a heads up. I was going to point this out, Ashea, but that one guy who was the guard in that earlier episode, when they came up with that report, and it seems like he sent a raven off, what was he doing in the candle there? It looked to me like he was burning something
just wax.
In the candle.
He was just sealing something. Sealing.
It was just sealing wax.
Yeah, it was just sealing wax. That's it. Yeah, and then he immediately sent a message.
Total sense.
Yeah, he immediately sent the message with it right away.
Yeah, I wondered if he was burning a message. That was my...
I think he was sending.
Trying to connect with the whole thing about all the messages missing from Otto and Ormond. I wonder if they were going through him and he was burning him.
Well, I think
that would have happened already by then. They wouldn't still have those, right?
But my other thought there is that it just shows that, he didn't send this through a maester. He just sent back and forth to each other, which speaks that Otto and Ormond, that they could have had just a way to send things directly to each other, just like Ormond is doing here to connect it to that. But
right. And he might be continuing to burn every message he gets from Ormond.
That I would think for sure, because there'd be no reason to keep them. There would be no, that's like everything is burned after reading in these situations. Let's talk about the Sept. Rhaenyra is increasingly, as we've been saying all season long, defaulting to thinking about and considering the position of the gods in all this. She reflects on what Ormond is doing as a cold presentiment before she has a more tangible name to assign to it. Daemon doesn't really like Rhaenyra praying here. He doesn't push too hard, but he's kind of amused by it. But it's not the battle he wants to fight specifically. He's got other problems he wants to complain about. He also says a thing similar to Orwyle, which is, you don't need this. The dragons are your strength and your legitimacy. True gods don't need septons. And Ormond kind of refers to that too in his own way. He says, yeah, the Targaryens have strength. That's the one thing the Targaryens have that they can't stand against is the strength of these dragons. Daemon is basically saying, yeah, that is our strength. That's your strength. You don't need these other things. That's the one thing that matters, and it stands alone. Obviously, Rhaenyra doesn't agree, and it's a kind of a recurring argument they keep having, and you wonder how it may come to a head, probably in a variety of ways. But the bigger problem might be how much she actually believes in it beyond as a means to calm herself, meaning this religious talk, this destiny, this divine choice stuff, it's a little unsettling. I don't think Daemon fully sees it, partly because his head is in the clouds too. But it's a different set of clouds. He does say, don't take omens from high vaulted ceilings. It's just wind. It's just a kind of a metaphor. But this is a guy who's been to Harrenhal, so he knows a few things about that sort of thing. And I would not take that advice in Harrenhal. That I would, Anyway, so this is some juxtaposition too, because it's kind of neat how Daemon is speaking High Valyrian, mostly because he doesn't want anyone to hear him. It's just a means to not be heard, which is a pretty cool thing they have to switch to. Valyrian mode. It might backfire. Someone might understand them, but they're also whispering, and they're not speaking exactly of big secrets here. But it could be something for later. You never know. She's talking about how they're blind, and they have not enough information, and they agree that the murders are coordinated. This is somewhat comforting, as I said, because Rhaenyra is being driven a bit mad by the uncertainty. It's driving her up the wall. Not mad. It's not that serious, but it's pretty serious. And that, again, is exactly what Ormond wants. So in that sense, Ormond is getting the results he wants. And the scene sort of ends with Rhaenyra sort of, I don't know if it's a tantrum, but she gets mad. But it's also effective. Like, she's emotional about Daemon failing about this Ormond thing. And she's just like, get it done. Fix it. The great Daemon undone, you know? And
Daemon.
I
love how they say the names in Valyrian. It's just like how they say Aegon and Daemon and all
Aegon.
that. Aegon.
Yeah. She's, he smirks because it's like, you know, well played. That is how you get me. Tell me I lost and I'm going to want to win. And so that's what he did. That's what she did. He was like, okay, that's actually an effective way to motivate me. That was manipulation, but it worked. So, okay. But then he walks off. He's like, you're better than this. He's like, like, you had to say something. You had to at least get the last word. He does consistently get the last word. Even when he's not enough.
That was another part of why I picked the best, I don't know if it's fair, best performance, but that line was really good because she was sort of getting the best of him. You know what I mean? He has, in a way at least, failed, and she's kind of poking him for it. But she's partly poking him for it because she's lost. She's lashing out. She doesn't know what to do. And when he says, you're better than this, I think he means you don't need to point out my failures. You know, like you're better than that. You're better than this sept. You don't need to pray. You don't need to worry about graffiti in the walls. You don't need to attack me. You're better than this. And he's kind of right there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, he's like, you know, you could have done that differently. You know, you could have. You're right, but you don't have to say it like that. Yeah. And there's some other things too, but he also thinks she's better than having to pray, because that's part of it is just he doesn't like this whole you appealing to the seven and all that stuff. I
think if she prayed in a Valyrian way, he probably wouldn't find it. I mean, they had a traditional Valyrian wedding. Think
that's
about
true.
that. They are like, as much as anyone believes in Valyrian gods or anything at this point, I think they're probably the more observant of the family.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that.
When she's talking about dragons appearing to her as a sign from the gods.
That part is very.
They have a great reverence for it, more than some of the other members do. More than Aegon does, certainly as an example, but I don't think he respects much of anything.
I think Daemon missed the episode when the Sept and Warren denied the faith at your peril. I don't think he.
Yeah, because she was partly just making an appearance here. This is partly like she's at the sept, not like her private one. Yeah, this is like people are seeing her. That's the whole point of them having to talk quietly, because there's other people walking around there. So
I mean, and she says it to Daemon. She says, "I have to do this."
Yeah, you're right. She does say that
for the faith and the small folk both. Right? That's what she says. It's a good look for her.
Also, though, she has gone on her own in the past. There were several scenes of her and Alicent in her youth here.
She went with Alicent more so, and she was always she was less respectful to the experience than Alicent was, but she still was like, well, my friend is more religious, and I'm going to go give her comfort. But generally, it was that's why it was with Alicent and not as much alone.
Yeah. It is different. She is a little, her reasons and her thought processes are different now for being there, but yeah, it isn't. But partly it's not, like you said, it's not her first time either. So she has a little bit of a headway already, or a head start rather.
Can I make a meta nitpick complaint? In this scene, at least on my TV, when they were speaking in Valyria, the subtitles are a little smaller and in yellow, right over the yellow candles. I had a hard time reading those subtitles. Am I the only one?
Yeah, that's too bad. That's annoying. Let's talk about the feast for traitors. Gruesome final scene, something out of a horror film. Ormond's methods are far different from the man he portrays himself as, right? We're on a holy mission. We're on a mission from God. You know, he says all these things like the faith is behind us, the God's saying. What would Daron actually do? What would he think if he actually saw it, if he knew this was the play? Like, sire, did we really endorse this? Is this like, oh my God, you know? So, yeah. It's also eye-opening for Daemon. Well, it's not eye-opening for Daron. He doesn't know about it, but it's very eye-opening for Daemon. What's your question?
Is who did the art direction in the world for this? You know, who said, okay, you're going to write a feast for traitors here. You're going to artfully arrange them at supper. You know, like, how involved is Ormond? Or is there some mastermind who's just like, oh, I have an idea for the most gruesome scene. It's going to look so good, you guys. Just bear with me. You know what I mean? I also want to point out that in the art for the episode, they originally have it say a feast for traitors with the compliments of King Daron, that they stripped it down to be a little bit less wordy from the concept art.
Interesting. Yeah, I do think that Ormond wants them to be really violent because that's effective. It's supposed to be unnerving, and I think he may not be specific, like put them at a dinner table. I don't think he's saying that kind of thing, but I think he probably does want them to be very bloody with it.
Do you think he wanted there to be 7? Like, Ormond might be aghast at the blasphemy of it.
No, I don't think he cares about that. I really don't. I think that's just, for him, that's just... Yeah, I don't think that's blasphemous. I don't think it's blasphemous either. You know, just having that number. You know, I don't think, unless they're like decorated a certain way, like one of them's the mother. You know, that would be blasphemous. But just the number. I mean, 7's just a common number. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything explicit about this being religious, except for the parallels we've made to it. In world, I don't think it comes off that way. You know what I mean? It's just, the only thing is the number, which by itself doesn't mean very much. So this is like, what we're seeing when we see that moment, of course, it comes very importantly as Cole is speaking of going out the best way, going out with honor, you know, making your choice. That is certainly not what happened with these guys. This is the opposite. They died in the dark without a chance to fight back. It's the worst in the sense of the framing Kristen Cole is giving. If the best is what Kristen Cole is aiming for, then this is the worst. They don't even know who they were fighting. Their bodies are desecrated. They're made into a message. That's their final resting place. That's what they're remembered for. These words, this message scrawled over their head, not songs sung about their bravery. Certainly not that. Songs sung about this gory scene are more likely to happen. The songs sung about the victims in a macabre sense, not in a heroic sense, certainly. And again, Sean, this is a good thing to cite about Matt Smith's acting too. He didn't have the face of someone mad at his enemy for one-upping them. He was sad a little bit. It wasn't quite as emotional for him as the loss of Simon, but Luthor was a trusted ally, someone he'd been around 20 years. And he's been beaten, and he's been outdone. It's all these things. It's like, this guy's outmaneuvered me. My friend is killed. Some more of my men are killed. This rousing speech I just gave is not going to be enough now. Certainly, almost certainly. Maybe he's thinking like what you said, Sean. Maybe there's inside man here. Maybe multiple inside men. How the hell did they do this? How did they kill 7 guys? Like, it's overwhelming. All these things are hitting him at once. Plus the fact that, you know, they might be right behind him or something. You know? Plus the odor, you know, that hit him before he got there, though. That he smelled well before he entered the room.
It wasn't emoted as his. Oh gosh, it wasn't emoted as much here, but it is more similar to the moment with Rhaena in the cave when he's just at a loss. You know, he's thinking about what now? How do I deal with this? He's. Especially because he's coming off, similarly, a moment of triumph, right? He gets the money from Lady Jane and then finds out his daughter was the riding sheep stealer. He gets the coin from the guy he tortured. Now it's Ormond, and oh my God, Ormond's doing even more now. Like, it's hard for him to have a moment of victory when suddenly this is in his face.
Absolutely. And you can see this later. We'll talk about Ormond. I think Ormond is our last topic, but it's part of why he seems so pleased with himself for most of the scene. Obviously, losing in Sivas sets him back a little bit, but because his plan is going well. Things are happening, like everything is progressing mostly, at least so far, the way he wants. And this is, you know, a captivating, culminating moment. And it's also like Rhaenyra said, undone. He's been beaten. You know, it's the battle's not over, the war's not over, but 2 points, 3 points, Ormond, you know, however many you want to assign. He's ahead in this Gold Cloaks plot so far. As book readers might guess, this is something we'll have more to say about elsewhere because this is a sort of a plot line that was shifted from one place to another. We'll just leave it at that and talk about it later.
Yeah, we will. I've not written it off.
Yeah. We could still have the other thing too, maybe.
Like in terms of escalations, I just to give you a hint of what we'll talk about. So
Makes for interesting parallels too.
Yeah.
Alicent, Helena, and Mazzaria. Now, you guys have said some things about this. Let's say some more. Let me weigh in as well. It's definitely a really meaty plot line. It maybe has as many scenes as the Kristen Cole one. I didn't actually count this one. I should have maybe, because it might also be 7. That would be pretty cool if it was also 7. Orwyle brings the moon tea sneakily. That's kind of how this all starts, and it does pivot from the other sound of Alice Rivers' humming just after Aemon just said mother. So it's a nice chilling parallel.
And you see the baskets of cats.
Yeah.
That's how they transport them. They're in a basket, and you see the cat
I did not
hop
see
out.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, look, you can see this cat. Watch. There's the cat goes hopping out of its basket that the cat guy brought.
Nice. So we can see that Orwyle was being watched. Of course he was. Like, Mazzaria is got to suspect everyone, and Orwyle's got to be high on the list because he was someone that worked for the previous regime. He's obviously high on the list. Of course he is, right? And we see a spy right there watching him. Orwyle says he can't help anymore. He knows he's being watched. This was already difficult for him to do. He had to talk his way past the guards by speaking to the subject they'd be most uncomfortable of. Not treason, not battle, women's health issues, right? And they're like, okay, you win. Go ahead. Now, so I predicted that Orwyle would help them escape. He didn't. I was wrong about that. But I was guessing that in part because I really didn't see who else they could reach out to. And as it turns out, they reached out to Random Servant, which does make sense, but I didn't think of that. He did help, but he couldn't help enough. He wants to stay on their good side, because he knows things could turn the other way. And, Alicent calls him a friend because she wants to keep that door open, that bridge, not burned. And Orwyle is keen because he's seen the reversal of power twice already, and why not have another one happen? Rhaenyra is not exactly established. So, yeah, he's not playing both sides so much as he is keeping his options open. He's not shutting the door.
I also want to say, Aziz, think about how many council meetings, like as Alicent has said, she ruled the kingdom. How many council meetings did they have? How many
they do have a rapport.
Moments?
Yeah, a working relationship. Yeah,
they've shared a lot together over like a decade, over a long period.
He has a respect for her too, because he can see, like, he's seen her in the long term and knows that she's generally, with some exceptions, of course,
cared for her sick husband. He cared for her sick husband, and she cared for, like, they went through like a kind of harrowing experience of seeing someone get so decrepit and frail,
Yeah, he just doesn't know Rhaenyra. Yeah. He never got to know her. Yeah. So that's she's an unknown quantity.
Can I say he did warn Alicent last episode? I forgot for sure, but in one of the last couple episodes, he warned her, I'm not gonna be able to help you anymore. Like, I've got to tell Rhaenyra what I'm doing. I'm being scrutinized or whatever. Like, so that also makes it tougher for him to, like, whisk them out of there. But I also want to give Alicent credit. I think at least part, if not her main motivation in trying to get Mysaria to not talk to Rhaenyra, is to protect Orwyle. She doesn't want it to get back to Rhaenyra that Orwyle brought the moon tea, not just to protect the daughter and all the other factors, but she doesn't want Orwyle to get in trouble. He is
Very
a
good
friend.
point.
He doesn't want him. She doesn't want him to be punished. Also, she doesn't want to lose him as an ally, or on and on. He's also valuable to the court. She knows he's a wise, learned man who's put great efforts into the ruling of the kingdom, and it would be a tragedy for him to be lost, and it might easily happen. Even if Rhaenyra wouldn't do it, Daemon might just randomly chop his head off. Anyway, I think she's largely trying to protect Orwyle here. I think I might have said Ormond on accident, but I meant Orwyle.
Definitely not trying to protect Ormond. Yeah, you're right. So this is basically what Alicent convinces Mysaria to do. This is like the short version of what the game she runs on Mysaria, which is like, hey, be like Orwyle. Again, she doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mention his name, but why step on me when I'm already flat? There's no profit to you in that. Be the white worm. Be what you were before. She doesn't convince her to be her ally. She convinces her to be self-serving again. She's like, look, you've just come too much on Rhaenyra's side. You aren't looking out for yourself enough. So yeah, she's not saying, hey, you should be on my side. Just don't forget to be on your side. And it's effective because Mysaria has gone too far in that direction. Mysaria, it starts with of course I'm watching you, and confronts them, and Alicent tries to cover for Helaena, drinks the tea herself, and I think Mysaria got a little bit of respect for her for doing it that way, and appealed to her common womanhood, right? You're right, she was trying to also protect Orwyle a bit, but she's also like, yeah, why tell Rhaenyra? The truth is going to come out anyway. Like, what's the point, you know? And we're all women here. It's degrading. What's
right?
that?
I mean, the thing I don't get is, like, there is a point. Mysaria should be proving herself as valuable and as being a good mistress of whisperers. And this is the kind of just what a scoop to bring her. And so Alicent is kind of ignoring the fact that there is a point to doing this and a benefit to Mysaria as well.
I agree. She's running her game in the second half of this is way more like it lands better. It's more true because you're right. There is an angle here for Mysaria. It's just not much of one. It's like, yeah, you've got dirt, but she's got dirt on a whole bunch of people. She's got dirt on probably.
Well, I think like her risk is like, for me, Myzaria's risk here. Like if anyone outs Mysaria as knowing this and not telling Rhaenyra,
how would they out her?
It's ruined by someone else observing things, just like Mysaria has observed things, that there's another shadowy figure that's watching things. I think it should be something that Mysaria is aware of that risk, and she has to weigh whether it's worth it or not. But I don't know. I think, personally, I think it's too big a risk for Mysaria. This is so huge.
I don't think it's that big a risk, but I think it's some risk, not very much though.
Alicent is ignoring that, but of course Alicent is ignoring that, right? That's the angle she has to take. And I think Mysaria is going to absorb all this. And Mysaria does know, even if it theoretically doesn't make a difference if I don't tell anyone, I still have something to gain by telling Rhaenyra. And maybe Mysaria also considers like, hey, I found out Orwyle came here. Other people are going to find out I came here. And if you're right, I think you're right about all that stuff, Shea, but it makes sense that Alicent isn't going to present all those angles. She's going to present the angle to her benefit. But Mysaria, still, I don't think, maybe one day prior, might have just told Rhaenyra, blew Alicent off and not care. But it's this thing we keep seeing over and over again of Rhaenyra pushing away the people that are close to her and should be helping her and need her. What just happened? Rhaenyra and Daemon have a little tiff. Daemon walks out, Alicent follows, and Mysaria's like, oh, my lady. And she's like, not right now. And just leave Mysaria behind and goes to talk to Daemon. And that's the angle that Alicent presents to her, is like, you know good and well Daemon and Rhaenyra are two sides of the same coin. She'll pretend like she's not, but think about it. She chose him for her future. She's going to have to do awful things. He's going to do awful things with her. You're trying to fight him. And Alicent doesn't say this, but Mysaria is trying to fight the awful things Daemon's doing. But in the end, Rhaenyra is going to angle with Daemon. Rhaenyra is going to have to do awful things. I think Alicent is getting herself into the white worm, and it's the seeds of betrayal are being sown, just like they are with Ulf and Hugh and on and on. That's how I read this scene anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about Mysaria betraying Rhaenyra. It could be, but it's definitely...
This is a betrayal. Right here, her not telling Rhaenyra that Helaena is pregnant... The wife of Aegon, her like a huge potential threat to her. Yeah, I think this is Mysaria has betrayed her, and Rhaenyra would see it as a betrayal, right?
And Orwyle is assisting her.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, just because it might not pan out to be that this is some threat to her throne or anything doesn't mean that it's not going to be seen that way. That's why Alicent's so worried about it.
But I think the way Alicent put it explains why, if it is a betrayal, it's extremely minor, because there's just no way to conceal it. Like, the truth is going to come out no matter what. Like, you can't hide Helena's pregnancy.
You can't, which is all the more reason why you would also think that if it's going to find out anyways, you should benefit yourself and tell Rhaenyra about this, because your whole job is to find this out. She just looks like she's bad at her job if she doesn't know this.
Well, I don't think that... Does it make her look bad?
If it does Orwyle here, because the secret's coming out anyway, but don't get Orwyle in trouble over this.
Well, how does it make her look bad, though, if it's just like, yeah, Helaena is now showing pregnancy? What is the part that makes her look bad?
Because Moon Tea was brought, she She didn't observe.
Again, no, we're not. We're talking the moon tea isn't revealed though. In the scenario where no one finds out about the moon tea, how does she look bad? Because I don't think the moon tea is going. I don't think that part's going to come out. I don't think the moon tea's going to. There's no proof of it.
Yeah, because Helena's been acting suspicious about this because she's looking visibly pregnant more and more because there are maids
right.
that live
The visibly
with
pregnant is the part that's going to out itself. That's the part I'm keying on. That without take the other factors away.
I think what the angle that Shay is taking that I kind of see is that this is something that is difficult to keep secret, and it's going to become known to everyone all at once. How did the Master's secrets not know it sooner? If you couldn't figure this out, what else are you not figuring out? It won't necessarily come out as a betrayal.
That's the case for someone who was new at the job. Mysaria has proven herself before in several ways. I don't think not noticing someone's pregnant, who's in captivity, is not some big intelligence failure.
Well, guys, two things about that. Again, one, there's the whole thing that she doesn't tell her about finding them. She stops them from trying to escape.
Oh, I agree with you. That's a betrayal.
Well,
I'm not holding to that. It's not a betrayal. I'm just saying it's extremely minor.
I just want to go on with that, which is also that Daemon takes charge of interrogating that guy. That should have been Myzaria's purview, right? She should have been involved in that, in my opinion, to find the secrets of the realm. And that's her dropping the ball.
But that's not her dropping the ball. That's Daemon dropping the ball.
It's Daemon dropping the ball. But if she was a good Mistress of Whisperers, she would have known that was happening and inserted herself into that. In my opinion, a really competent person.
You guys are holding her to a very high standard here. I'm not sure that Rhaenyra holds her to the standard that you guys are holding her to. Should have known about the gold cloak stuff. I don't know about that. That's what Daemon's focused on. It's the same thing. This is where it's like Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra may not notice some of this stuff because she's so busy. Mysaria is really busy too. She's been assigned to look after the entire staff of the castle.
I think
and root out the secrets from the staff there. The gold cloaks they don't even work in the castle.
But I think our point too is that Rhaenyra is clearly becoming more paranoid and more worried about this.
That I agree.
And so this is going to be something she's suspicious of, is why did my Mistress of Whispers not be able to tell me that is Mysaria really for me? I think this is more reasons for her to doubt Mysaria.
I'm skeptical that Rhaenyra will find this out in order to figure it out that this has even happened. That's the part I don't think it gets back to her. The only thing that gets back to her is the obvious thing, Helaena becoming pregnant. That's the only thing you can't hide about this.
Well, this is what I think is my hope, is that I think Mysaria perhaps is going to tell Rhaenyra and is just waiting for the exact right moment, and she will get to tell her.
I think that's entirely possible. I don't think Mysaria did anything to indicate that she's going to do what Alicent wants. She just said, the face she made when she left her in her final scene was, I'm going to think about this. Not, okay, you're right. She didn't commit to anything. Yeah, she committed to nothing. So she also didn't foresee a new secret door being found. She hasn't had time to learn the
another angle
passages.
Here, though, is that Mysaria might also feel slighted by Daemon and/or Rhaenyra by not being included in that interrogation. It's another example of something that, but whether or not she should have known that was happening, I don't know. But once it was happening, she should have been included in interrogation. And the fact that she wasn't, maybe Rhaenyra didn't even know. But how many other times is Daemon going to do something without Rhaenyra knowing? How much power do I really have? How trusted am I? Maybe I do need another angle or out or my own power or whatever.
Well, I can see why Daemon didn't include her for multiple reasons. Obviously, he just doesn't want to work with her.
Yeah.
But I don't think I agree with you guys that she should have been included, that he needed to include her. Consider, does the FBI reach out to the CIA when they have a captive, make sure we find out, hand them over to you. That doesn't really work that way. You know what I mean? Law enforcement agencies butt heads all the time over jurisdiction and things like that. And I think Daemon's just this is my job. I'm doing this. Mysaria would help. She would be helpful. I'm definitely not denying that. But that she has to? Yeah, there's just so much going on. And this is more in the soldiers, not with the Red Keep intrigue. I could see why she'd be involved. But anyway, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, we spent time on it. I think it's totally reasonable that Rhaenyra will lash out about anything that she didn't know about that she finds out later, and Mysaria could catch that fire, is my thought.
My bottom line here is I don't think Mysaria is taking a significant risk. The question is, what is she gaining in exchange for that risk, which is I think what we're getting to. So let's move on to that. Now, first of all, Alicent would never have been trying to escape if not for the child. She wasn't trying to escape until Helaena refused to take the tea. So that's another thing. Let's just make sure we have our order straight here. That puts them in a bind because there was what Alicent realized that I don't think Helaena accepted. Maybe she realized it but didn't accept it. Is there's kind of no way to escape with Jaehaera and not like you can't or stay and keep the baby. You can either stay with Jaehaera or escape with your pregnancy. You can't really do both. And Helena was kind of having trouble accepting that, but did accept it ultimately because she did leave. She did go out the door when the chance came there. But backing up a little bit, we have this scene where Alicent is
still in that moment being deceived by Alicent. Alicent told her, well, they're going to meet. Some maid's going to meet us with Jaehaerys. And Helena's like, wait, where's the maid? Which is like, oh, we're gonna meet him on the other side. Like,
that was true, Sean. That was true because that was the door. They were gonna go through that room to leave. Remember, that servant was letting them into
the secret chamber.
Was letting them into Bela's room. Remember that was that whole discussion about going to Bela's room, and they knew Bela had that secret door. That's the one that she mentions, the room where they killed my boy.
But how are they to say they didn't close that off in the period since then is the other question.
Yeah,
they might have had the same exact situation.
You're right. That might have been closed. That one might have been more likely to be closed off. But they didn't know. It's like Alicent didn't know it was closed off. Like if it had been closed off while she had been living there, she didn't know about it. So that is a little, a little bit of surprise. Maybe something that needs to be explained. Like who did seal that up and how did Alicent not know about it? It's not like she was out of the Red Keep, like if Otto had that sealed up and didn't tell her, why? Like, why keep that secret? I can see it being lost in the shuffle, but like, there's a chance she would have known about that. Anyway, so here's a question. Did the maid who accepted the bribe, I thought this was pretty cool storytelling. Alicent there's no line here. She just sitting there looking white because she drank the moon tea. She's feeling a little, She looks at her own necklace, looks at the servant, looks back at her necklace, and then later you find out she bribed that servant with her necklace, and it didn't work. Either the maid was fired or the maid was in on it the whole time and just told Mazzaria, and they let her, let them walk out the door and be like, here, because they got like 10 feet before Mazzaria was waiting for them. So I don't know which it is, and I don't think we're meant to know, but it's possible that the maid was a plant. Either way.
Can I go back to the Helena scene here?
Yeah, the actual moment where she refuses to take the...
Say that again.
The actual moment where she refuses to take the
moon tea.
The moon tea. Has Helena ever yelled before?
No, she was. I don't know if she has. I can't. That's a good question. If we've seen her like that, but she was very firm with her. And also, Alicent did the patented Hightower face squeeze, where they put their hands on both sides of their face to like try to get through to them. But Helena, stuck her ground. And you see, she was like, no. And I just thought Fia, it was a really great acting beat, and also just this heartbreaking moment for a mother to be trying to make her drink this abortifacient. I wanted to just give her props for this.
We'll call those Hightower hands. Those are the Hightower hands. Yeah, I agree. That was a great moment. She had like a facial tick with her jaw. She was like kind of I guess
she does do that. Other characters do that too.
It was kind of neat.
Found she does like a facial tick with her jaw. Other ones have like a clenching that they do in their jaw. I noticed Daron did it, and I've seen Aegon do a little tick as well, which I think is interesting. I think it makes sense for actors to do that naturally, and for them to decide to infuse that into their character too, which I think in Fia's case is very deliberate. And I wonder in case of like Daron if it's just like how he shows himself being set his jaw.
Well said. Some more about Mazzaria here. I think something that's really interesting, something really subtle, is that Alicent realizes that Mazzaria is exalting a little bit, that she's sort of gloating over Alicent's situation, and that leads Alicent to realize that Mazzaria is making a mistake. She's like, why are you just like, again, why are you stepping on me when I'm already flat? This isn't profitable to you. Look at what you're doing. You're kind of gloating over me. You're focusing on me when I'm nothing right now. And Alicent's mostly right about that. Alicent is dangerous because of who she is, and so she shouldn't take her too lightly. Alicent's very capable. She's very smart. But basically, yeah, the baby is a danger. And Helena is a little bit of a danger if she escapes because she can make more Targaryen. She can make more claimants because she herself is a Targaryen. But Alicent's not a Targaryen. She can't, herself isn't that dangerous just out there. You know what I mean? She's dangerous because of what her brain and what she's capable of coming up with her planning, not because she herself is a threat to the throne. So that's what Alicent was pushing towards Mazzari. Is like, look, you can't get anything out of just tormenting me and gloating. There's no benefit to you. How is that in your self-interest? If you just like do everything for Rhaenyra, and this is kind of what I was trying to get at before a little bit. You guys are right, but I was just arguing severity, you know, and intensity. That definitely it was a betrayal of sorts. But I think, but what Alicent's whole point is like, don't just be Rhaenyra's lapdog. Act in your own self-interest. Put yourself first, like we all do. Like Rhaenyra is doing, like Daemon is doing. She basically reminds Missoria of how powerless she is. It's like, I'm a hostage. What can you really do? You know? What are you? Is this looking out for you? Have you forgotten how quickly power turns? You were a prisoner once. Now look where you are. I was the queen, and now look where I am. Things change. Like, yeah, she's not trying to claim Rhaenyra is not trustworthy. She's not trying to claim she is trustworthy. She's just trying to claim you should look out for yourself. And being Rhaenyra's lapdog is not that. It lands. We don't know how much it lands because Mazzaria is keeping it to herself. She's cagey. She's smart enough not to say, "Damn, you're right. I never thought about it that way." But it's a common sense argument, and that's why these two people who are very opposed, Alicent is actually able to land some arguments here because they are good arguments. As you said before, Sean, Alicent plays on the incestuous nature of Rhaenyra and Daemon's relationship without bringing up that term. She calls them dragon riders, two sides of the same coin, right? Like things that show that they're more intrinsically connected, literally, by blood and by marriage and by heritage and by royalty and by magical blood. Massari has literally none of that. All she has is love, like regard, respect, what Rhaenyra feels now. And that's clearly more temporal than those other things, which can't change, right? All this at once. It's an assault of mostly truth. Yeah, Alicent has an angle here, but she's not saying things that aren't inaccurate. So she's like, yo, are you really going to give up all this for that? Like, you know, Daemon's going to come out ahead. Have you forgotten that this is the Game of Thrones? Right? So, and she doesn't look away. Remember what Helena said? You lie. You look away when you lie. And Alicent does not look away when she's saying all these things. And I think Mazzaria is good at detecting lies. And she's not detecting. And what's that mean? No lies detected. Or at least no lies detected yet. She's like, maybe I got to go back and think about this because that was all too real and too accurate. Man, Alicent's telling the truth? I'm having trouble with that. Alicent telling the truth? So Alicent was able to accomplish something that Daemon was not, which is she gets Rhaenyra, or she gets Mazzari to worry about the future of her relationship with Rhaenyra. Daemon's not worried about his future with Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is not really worried about her future with Daemon, even though Mazzari has tried. Because Mazzari is a choice and Daemon is a fact in terms of the actual connective tissue between them. So Mazzari knows she's being played on some level, but it's just too hard to deny all these things being said, especially perhaps the coup de grace at the end of it all, which is something that Jaime says to Roose Bolton. He's like, like Bolton's like, I don't care about the enmity of Lannister. We're thousands of miles away. He's like, yeah, but the friendship of Lannister could mean a lot. That's what she says. She's like, yeah, we're far away and I'm not powerful, but I'm still a Hightower and we Hightowers are powerful. We could be good. We're good friends to have. So that's my spiel. I like this scene a lot. I like these interactions a lot. We've covered a lot of different scenes with this. And again, we don't know what Mazzari is going to do with all this information, but we know her perspective has changed. We can say that much, I think, at least.
Yeah, it's a real also comparison to Kristen Cole, as we touched on earlier. The idea of service to someone. Are you going to live your whole life in service to Rhaenyra, or do you want to be your own person? And I think that's what she poses to her.
Good point. And yeah, the Cole Mazzari parallels. Well said.
Another thing is that Mazzaria, something that she's been doing, understandably, is just her primary motivation has been vengeance on the Hightowers. But that might be, and she might realize that might be misguiding her, that all the Hightowers aren't the same. Alicent didn't want to burn my house down. I was Otto. Otto's already dead. Maybe it's not as simple as revenge on the Hightowers. Maybe I'm sacrificing my own agency for this vengeance that there's not even a need for anymore. I was pairing up with Rhaenyra because she was against the Hightowers, but the Hightowers aren't the real threat. And Daemon might still be a threat, and she's with, this is all enough to make her reevaluate what her intentions are.
And this too is classic Game of Thrones. Are you sure you want to pay the price for revenge? Are you sure this is worth it? Like the value of revenge, the quest for revenge. I mean, she's no Sandor Clegane, but this is a similar type of argument. Like, how far do you want to go with this? Like maybe you should just make something else with your life too. Maybe your whole life can't be revenge on the High Towers, right? That's not a life at all. So yeah, so that is pretty cool. And I'm curious what they'll do with it. And I think it's definitely going to create some interesting conflict that I think a lot of us didn't necessarily see coming. The whole Alicent angle here is, I think, pretty well done, but not necessarily expected. And as you said, Sean, that's a sign of good writing. The lack of expecting something that in retrospect looks kind of, well, yeah, of course stuff like this might happen. Like, yeah, of course they're going to have not these specific conversations, but of course they're going to interact. Frank Wizza says, bad mother vibes again shown by Alicent forcing an abortion on Helena. Yeah, I mean, a tough position to be in for both of them, but yeah, you can understand why Helena's like, look, I'm aware of this. I could do that, and my answer is no. I'm going to roll with it, So they're confined to a chamber to prevent another escape attempt. That makes sense. But this is the Red Keep, and now there are cats. So the game has changed. Arya was led down to the tunnels by a cat with a dragon's name, and now we have a similar moment minus the the length of their journey. It gets cut rather short. They're startled. I think it's the same cat that startles them. It showed them the way, and they drop their lantern. And the episode ends with them in this spot. They're still in the darkness, I suppose, with Kristen Cole's voiceover and Daemon about to see the horror that he can already smell. And so it's kind of neat. I like the cat detecting the little error and the thing behind. That was a clever way to find the secret passage. I thought it was kind of cool. Cats doing their thing. We knew they'd play a role.
Helena pets the cat as she looks.
And she's trying to get him to come, and he won't come.
Yeah, and this cat enters with Mazzaria and just stays in their room with them.
Skin changers of a different sort. First it was the rat skin changers, now it's the cats. They have different vibes, for sure.
It was a little bit of a cliffhanger. Like, the show doesn't usually have quite that much of a what's going to happen in the next 1 minute sort of cliffhanger. Like, what are they going to, I wonder if the next episode is going to pick up with them just trapped in the dark trying to find their way back up, or if we're going to flash forward 3 days and they're in jail cells, or I wonder how they'll handle that.
Here's something I'm very curious about, and I really don't know what to make of it, but it's very interesting. Helena tells Jaehaera, don't touch that caterpillar because it eats nightshade. That means it's poisonous. Then she's got that caterpillar in a cage. Anytime any character mentions poison, especially like unknown poison or something that hardly anyone knows is poison, that is something to pay attention to. Like, oh, this is a plot point. This is Chekhov's poisonous caterpillar.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up is she says she needs to see the moon, and it's because the caterpillar hatches with the moon. It goes through the larval stage or whatever it is. Anyways, which I also thought was of great meaning, the idea of all the metamorphosis that all these characters are undergoing and how they're changing. I felt it had this great meaning to it as well. But for people who were wondering why she cared about the moon, it was related to the caterpillar.
Yeah,
Very
I sort
good.
of assumed that, and I wonder if she was trying to time when it's going to turn into a butterfly. Will the butterfly also be poisonous? It definitely was subtle, but definitely in there for a reason. And I'm wondering how this will play out. Also, I wonder at what point Helena might, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how things go down in the books. And I never thought of Helena as a candidate to burn a city down with a dragon. But at what point is she going to get pushed far enough to jump on a dragon and fly? Maybe how rogue she will be. Is she going to join up a battle? I don't know. But it is a factor. She does have a dragon. And she is being pushed from the quiet girl in the corner taking notes in her book to yelling back at her mom and caring for a poisonous bug. So I don't know. And trying to escape. I wonder where this is going to go, how much more central or how much more effect she might end up having.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I wonder, like, how much does she really want to escape? Like, I mean, she did want to be free, but but the escape thing is, I don't know, that, like, she definitely wanted to be gone. Like, she was mad at Rhaenyra for not letting her go. But yeah, I wonder if she could be pushed into violence. That's all, because that's a hard line for her. I wonder if she can be pushed that far. But maybe that would be That would be a metamorphosis for sure. I could see it. I'm not against it because, yeah, like you say, Sean, there's so many things pushing her, and there's some vibes here with poison and all that. Who knows? Maybe she'll go poison poor Joffrey, you know? It's like, it'll make me feel better, just like I asked you about if it made you feel better. And no, I really doubt that. But wow,
As dark as East.
That's very dark. Yeah. So let's go to Tumbleton. Speaking of dark, this guy. Oh wait, Jenny of Coldstone's Creamery sends a message here. Hyper-focus bug facts. Helena mentions the puzzling nightshade caterpillar, which IRL becomes the Sphinx moth, and the Sphinx is associated with riddles. Hey, that's cool. Good catch. The Sphinx moth. Yeah, I like that. So Ormond has a few things that show us the passage of time along with the other locations. There's more conscripts being ordered and trees cut and more fortifications progressing. But mostly he's feeling pretty good because, well, you can tell by how he behaves and because of what's happening around him. His plan is progressing. You know, there hasn't been any setbacks so far. You know, maybe some things aren't progressing as fast as they could, but Aegon still hasn't appeared. Aemon hasn't appeared. His army is growing. You know, no one's attacked him. You know, no real problems. He gets that message we already talked about. Things like his plan is going well in King's Landing. This next section is called "The Yellow Toad is Never Dry." Daron starts to call the histories dry and backpedals when he realized that's not what Ormond wanted to hear, and Daron is clearly well-conditioned not to upset his father figure. They continue to set the tone for this relationship, and we got a little extra of it from Gwain's point of view. But he is more confident and relaxed than he was in the previous episode because I think of this success, because things are going well. But he still does a few things that Daron thinks he's going to get mad about, and that's where I'm coming to with this. It's like he thinks he's going to get mad, but because his overall mood is better, it keeps his temper a little more in check, right? Daron's worried about a number of things, but only the board game actually has the temper flare up. A good example is Daron he's saying, I'm studying my forebears on the Hightower side. And he like quickly clarifies that. It's like, oh man. So Daemon stumbles, but he's like, venerated it's a privilege to venerate my ancestors. And then he goes, it would please me to hear you recite. Who else groaned when he said that? I half groaned because I'm like, well, if he tells us some history, that'll be worth it.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I was like, yes, read from this book for us, please. I want to hear all about what you're reading about. So no, I was shocked when we watched it together and you had that reaction. I'm like, but Aziz, history, what are you doing? And then we got a Martell talk. I was so surprised to hear them talk about Miriam Martell, the Yellow Toad, to hear Ormond actually respect a woman and a Martell. And it makes perfect sense in retrospect why he would. But I was like, say more, Ormond. As he started it, I was like, where's he going with this? That he actually respected her. It was an interesting wrinkle to his character that just totally made sense in retrospect. So yeah, I thought it was cool writing.
He said, the only woman ever to be gifted with a truly military mind. So there's still the powerful sexism in there. And he says the gods also made her really ugly because, yeah, like that's just what they have to do, of course, right?
There has to be a price to pay for a woman to be a military expert. She can't also be attractive or whatever else.
Yeah. But there's no way around the fact that she resisted the dragons. And that's the point here. And that's what he's getting at. And he says, a cunning mind can resist the most savage of beasts. And Daron asks the question, does that make her hero or villain? Like a lot of cutting questions in this episode, there is no answer given. The question is kind of dodged. In this case, it's not the point, hero or villain, because he's like, well, she's not the hero. She's the lesson we can learn so that we can be the heroes. Right? That's more what he's saying.
It's because she was against and victorious against the Targaryens. That's why he's wanting to raise her up, for lack of a better word.
And he even points out it was regrettable that they marched with the Targaryens, not because they were going to fight Dorne, but A, because they were fighting with the Targaryens, and B, because they lost. That was also not good. Like that's the regrettable for sure. Yeah, they lost. I mean, that can't be it. That can't be a plus. And of course, he says the episode title, Unbowed, Unbent, and he says they went to ground, they rose up, they attacked in the night, they did all this clever stuff, and that allowed them to remain unbroken. So he completed the Martell words indirectly there, but he said all three of them, you know. Now, Shay, your surprise is cool, and I was surprised too to hear him talk about this. It made sense. And our friend Naomi Makes Art pointed out to me that they might be making some specific choices here with their stories, because we already talked about the last episode, the set they made for the Veil, and we talked about it. Maybe they're going to use that in the Aegon the Conqueror movie, right? Well, this could be set up for that too. Princess Mary Martell letting the audience know who one of Aegon's foes will be, not just one of them, but the one that's the most successful, right? And we also heard a mention of Hair in the Black in this one. Of course, that one's a lot more well known. We know that one doesn't need to be mentioned, but hey, it was mentioned, so that's kind of cool. That they maybe are setting some more groundwork for that movie, which we'll talk about at some point during the off season. The progress they're making towards that movie being made, which it seems that the progress continues. That's all I'll say for now. It's definitely still going. This next section is called Never Apologize for Tantrums. Ormond's peaceful confidence is suddenly interrupted. All things are going so well, but he loses the game. Instead of trying to master the board, he spends a moment trying to master himself. And he's in genuine conflict here. He bitterly hates losing. As Gwaine said, he's thin-skinned about it. But he's trying to teach his foster son to be a winner. Right? He's a villainous man, but his heart is in genuine conflict. He wants this kid to he literally doesn't want him to apologize for victory. He really meant that. But he was also legitimately pissed.
Lose the game. I'm not allowed to lose my temper.
So, and it's again, Daron is like, oh, I got lucky. You know, it's like, oh, poor kid. It's just like, you can't thrive under this man at all, even though he thinks he's doing the best thing you could possibly. He's like, don't you want to be king? Like, just like Alicent, like, I made you, Otto said that to Alicent, I made you queen. Like, I didn't ask for that. Like, how do you assume that that's the best thing for me, right? Anyway, that's familiar territory. Throughout the scene, Ormond is playing with the coins that he later reveals. If you go back and watch it, he's holding them like the whole time. He's playing with them, jingling them around. It's like he's waiting for the right moment to reveal them. He's like very excited about his numismatic intrigue, as I like to call it. I'm going to keep using that term as long as I can. Daron doesn't notice that he's playing with the coins. He's focused on the game, and he's focused on, not upsetting Ormond, which is a full-time job. And once he gets mad, he says that line about don't apologize for victory, and then he pivots to the coins. And he's so proud of them. He's so like, this is such a great step for us. He points out how everyone's going to see these, from the commons to Boros Baratheon. Again, he mentions Boros Baratheon. Name-dropping Boros twice in 2 episodes is meaningful. He wants Boros to join them. Of course he does. That's a lot of support, potentially. That's the Stormlands, but the show is name-dropping him for its own reasons, and we don't know what those are yet. But in general, I'm giving Season 3 high marks for getting back to its own loose ends and referring to them and keeping them in play. But that's not the point here. The coins are the bigger point here. I'm not so sure Ormond's right about the common folk seeing these gold coins. They rarely see gold coins, but he's still not wrong, because everyone's going to hear about them. The word is going to spread about the coins, even to people who don't see the coins. It's a huge thing. Like, they're going to spread all over. The message is big. It's marketing. It's money at the same time. It's pretty clever. Daron doesn't respond. He just looks at it and is like,
Can I tell you, if I was a common-born person or any person and I saw this coin, I'd be like, I don't know, is that Aegon? Is that Daron? I don't know.
It is not distinct. You're
no,
right.
It's not distinct. Aegon even has the same haircut. It's just when you look closer, it is like a childlike face. It's a very young face. But I certainly don't think that many people are going to even think too much about it.
Look at the hair. It's curlier, too. Like, that is, like, this is maybe more evidence that his hair has been altered. That Daron's hair isn't its original shape and like, this is just doesn't. I assume it says Daron on it somewhere, but otherwise he's just like, I made these coins before, and just I figured I'd give them to whichever king was. I didn't tell you which. It's generic Targaryen face. So I do really wonder what's in Daron's head. Like,
well, he looks so apprehensive and unhappy about this, whereas Ormond looks so happy. He's like all smiley eye. He's so proud, and Daron looks so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh man. Sean, you have something to say?
Are we about to go to the next section?
I was going to talk about Syvass next, so...
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll just go before you go to the next section.
Okay, cool. So Syvass, book readers may remember that Syvass is new, quote unquote, to Westeros in the era of A Song of Ice and Fire, but not new like it was just invented. Like, it had made its way to the court in Dorne, of all places, which is
From
kind of funny given...
Yeah,
from Volantis, which is like... It's our take here is it's like
Cyclical.
fashion. It's cyclical,
Yes.
you know?
It's a totally reasonable, again, I'll tell you, I balked when I saw it on screen at first. I was like, what? The line is specifically that it was like a new fashionable game coming. And I'm like, no, games come and go. And it could have been popular around Dance of the Dragons era and before, and then gone out and come back. And that's a totally fine explanation if you want to just see it on screen, which we should. I'm excited that they got to make this prop and have it on screen, and that's a big win. It's okay to make this slight change if it isn't even really has to be a change in order to see this on screen. And so, yeah, I think Ryan Condal just wanted to show a game that he liked in Feast on screen and Dance.
Yeah, and it's in the possession of rich people. So, like, if it's a rare thing that hadn't caught on before, an example of just a few families having it also makes sense. To add on to what Ashay was saying, like chess, it didn't disappear in the U.S., but it's had its ups and downs. Like, when the Queen's Gambit show with Anya Taylor-Joy dropped, interest in chess around not just the U.S., but especially the U.S., just skyrocketed. I personally knew several friends that just got into or back into chess, and I'm pretty sure the same thing happened in the 80s when Searching for Bobby Fischer dropped.
Sean was one.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, so anyway.
It's hard to understand how popular chess was in, I don't know, the 50s, around Bobby Fischer's era. It was like as popular as tennis or whatever, like, I mean, not baseball or football, but, it was like a significant national thing that people cared about and paid attention to, and schools had clubs and on and on.
And I like what Ashay said too, that this gave them an opportunity to put it in the show, to make it. They even did the screen, because you're supposed to have a screen to like set up your pieces, and it's very intricate. And of course, they're probably going to sell it, but I mean, it's cool.
Yes,
This isn't cheap
it.
merchandise. It wouldn't be some sort of cheap knockoff merchandise, just like selling socks and water bottles. This is cool merchandise. This is like authentic and requires real craftsmanship. So
I would also like to point out two things. One, you get to see in the BTS like the moves that they planned out for Ormond and the pieces they used, for the game, which was cool. But also, those of you who've seen our normal intro that Michael Klarfeld did that used to be used for our non-TV episodes, that intro uses Syvass pieces that are on Thingiverse, because for many years fans have come up with their own designs for this game and pieces, and Michael used the 3D models from that in our intro. So you've seen that countless times in our intro, and I think honestly not dissimilar from what they went with, which is pretty cool.
Right on. And yeah, it is got some plot to it as well, right? We talked about how it's a parallel to young Griff playing Tyrion at Syvass, and when Tyrion beats him, young Griff has his tantrum and knocks all the pieces on the ground. So the reverse is that it's the adult with the thin-skinned loser in this case. But also Tyrion mentions that it's important to know when to bring your dragon out in Syvass, when to use your dragon. It's an important piece that you have to use carefully. Bring it out too soon and you're going to lose. Bring it out too late, you'll also lose. It was the winning move for Daeron. So is there a little symbolism there? Like, when should he use his dragon? His dragon is smaller. It can't just be used all the time because, it's too much of a risk. It's not exactly Vagar, where you have a little more room for error with Vagar. Vagar can take a few hits and keep going, but we saw what happened with the smaller dragon like Arax, and Tessarion is more along that size.
I'm going to say we're going on to Aegon and Larys yet, and I'm going to say that I think since we spoke about it a lot earlier, we should try to keep it limited because we are at 3 hours.
Let's do it. Okay, let's talk about Aegon and Larys with all the speed we can muster, which is...
Just by keeping it limited. Sorry, I got to make my one little comment from before.
Cool,
we
go
were
for
talking
it.
about just thinking about cats in the walls and the Red Keep. And, what are you going to do? You got to send a queen in after him? I'm thinking 2 or 3 queens.
Yeah, 2 or 3 queens. Yeah, cats in the wall.
They did send 2 queens in the wall.
Now you're talking my language. They did. That's
good.
Good.
In there too.
Okay, yes, Aegon and Larys. Aegon is determined but foolish. Again, the parallel to him stepping on something right after the crow's feet scene. He loses his temper with Larys, who's just trying to talk sense to him. Aegon won't listen despite how silly his plan is. He calms down by the next scene, but doesn't stop complaining. And yeah, Larys puts him in his place quite well, as we discussed. Larys is pretty hilarious here. His line is, "You whinge and self-flagellate with a tenacity I find astonishing." Like, he just leans into the astonishing. And Larys is, as a character, Matthew Needham is playing this character very straight. He doesn't emote very much, but he did there, and so it really landed because he so rarely does it. And he says, "You are a bad king, but worse than that, you are a terrible man." And it worked so well. It landed so well. And he just walks off. He's like, "I'm out of here. Like, I'm going to leave you here. You know, if you're going to follow me, fine. But if you're not going to change your tune, I'm done." So they meet back at the camp. Aegon seems to have somewhat gracefully accepted his chastisement. He says, hire the boat. And so he gets an apple. He's, "Okay, kid, you get a reward. Here's your treat." And as he's being handed the apple, the Red Keep fills itself with cats, and Aegon and Larys find a lion, or rather, a lion finds them. He did not, in fact, regret all that kit when he fell in the drink, at least not too much.
I cheered. No, I knew it was coming because we watched the credits where they said Jefferson Hall at the beginning, and I'm like, yes! I was so excited to be correct.
We paused it, and we're like, maybe it's just his body, but we saw that name, and we're like, yeah. He's more buoyant than we knew.
Which is where I could say in the book, he doesn't die there, and, it could change it, because they're not going to follow the whole length of his life necessarily, but I was very gratified that Tyland is alive. I don't think anyone's ever been more happy to see Tyland Lannister than me in that moment.
Rhaenyra is praying more and more to the Seven. This guy owes a thing or two to the Drowned God, I gotta say. Like, he needs to change his religion because that's who saved him, right? So before, Sean, I'll let you weigh in here, but I just want to admit, yeah, I was wrong on this one. I was like certain he's gone. I don't like it that much, like the way that they brought him back, like the actual plot device, but I'm with Ashea that I like that he's back in general because he does have more to do, and I didn't want to see his story cut short. And this is nowhere near
for wear, Aziz. Like, he's dressed too nicely for me, for where he should be. I think
he somehow got back to his people. Like, he has some sellswords, and Larry said that they're low paid by the looks of it, which that at least reflects that he doesn't have his full access. Maybe he sold his armor.
Maybe he sold his armor. That's a good idea, Aziz. I like that idea, or something like that. That he had something.
You can also just say a Lannister always pays their debt, right? He's got a certain amount of clout, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. If he could just prove who he is, which he might be able to do. Also, this is nothing compared to Jaime Lannister sinking into the black. Like, you see him sinking into the depths. And then the next episode, he's just on the shore crawling. You're like, what? Like, so it's literally, this is a Lannister thing. In the real world, cats will always land on their feet. In Westeros, cats cannot drown. They just, no matter what, they will find their way back to shore. So anyway, so the timing of this is funny because Aegon had just said, all right, Larys, we'll do your plan. And now here comes Tyler. He's like, your plan sucks. Your plan is self-serving, and he just like sort of makes up things about Essos. He's like, I've been there. It's hot. I had to do things, and it's like, dude, there's no monkeys and heat in Bravos, but I don't know that Larys knows that. Either way, he's just saying things. He exaggerates about a lot of things, so I think that's just part of it. I maybe would have preferred him to accurately portray Bravos, but I think he's doing that on purpose.
Did Tyland... I imagine at some point Tyland has gone to Bravos. The Lannisters are wealthy. Bravos lends money.
I would not assume that at all. I would definitely not make that assumption. Definitely not assume it.
Maybe he ended up there somewhere in the past weeks after the whole escapade. I don't know. It seeed odd for him to be referencing Bravos.
He wasn't referencing. He was Sean. I can tell you why. That was Larys' plan.
Right. He's just trying to talk Larys out of it.
Larys had the long-term plan for them to go to Bravos to hide. So he's already put money there. He already stashed money there. So Lannister's arguing against that.
And Rita cannot get over, because you hear some of this kind of in the background because they shift to Aegon and Janos, and you just in the background you hear Tyland say, the monkeys alone. Like
Monkey's a lie. No, that's
The
what I'm saying.
monkey's
He's just
alone
being
what?
ridiculous. He's like trying to come up with any reason to not go give in to Laris's plan. They both know that the other one is being self-serving with their plan. Like, no, Casterly Rock. No, Bravo. Like, they both, like, I don't want, there's no middle ground to that either, right?
if there were, there might be monkeys, so you gotta watch out.
So, yeah, it's pretty funny.
In one of the Herna Wertzog movies. I wonder if that's another.
I wonder if Jefferson Hall. Where else? Jefferson Hall is going to be in every Game of Thrones show. He has. They have to put him in Night of the Seven Kingdoms to somehow, and then he has to appear in all the future shows. Yeah, he just has to be in everything.
Well, yeah. Can I say someone we had over, a listener was watching with us, and we all see the credits up, and our friend saw the credits, and she exclaims, and he goes, "What?" Because he looked down. We're like, "We're not going to tell you," and he goes, "What was it like? Someone who's maybe dead, who's presumed dead? Someone who's been in Game of Thrones?" And I'm like, somehow both.
Yes, actually both.
Actually both, crazily enough. Weirdly enough. Because he was Hugh of the Vale, for those of you who forgot. So nice, they cast him thrice.
Our friend Dan was over, and he's not super caught up on the show, so he hasn't seen a lot of these arcs, and he saw just part of season 1, and he watched episode 1 of season 3, and then straight to episode 5. He specifically commented on Laris and Aegon. Like, those two have really great chemistry. The actors, see? Yeah, even someone who hasn't seen their history can pick up on that right away. Yeah, because it's just the actors are really good together. They're great individually, too. So the final little moment, yet more comedy included here. Laris is sure they're being watched. We talked about it before. There's people watching this guy, like he's looking right at them. He goes and tells Janos, whispers to him, like, blah, blah, blah. There's something going on here. He points in their direction, and then Janos sneaks around the side, and next thing you know, he's got Aegon's crown. And it's the last thing he does. Newly re-energized Aegon, who just ate an apple. Don't mess with Aegon after he's had an apple. He cores his opponent here and covers his hand on his mouth so he can't cry out. And it's the reaction of his would-be ambitious protectors here is pretty funny. Like, Tylan jumps up, starts to pull a sword out, and then is like, eh. And Laris just like, it's like, gosh, dang it.
I was worried there were eyes on us before. Now, jeez.
At least he killed the most dangerous of them, but still.
I appreciated that Aegon seemed to do this with his dragon scale, with Sunfire's scale. He stabs the Janos, is my read on it.
I wasn't sure about that.
I'm pretty sure he does.
He's
holding it in his hand constantly. That's the weapon that he had handy. And it's sharp and strong, and it would definitely stab a man and kill him.
I think you might be right. I wasn't sure if that's what it was, because there's a good chance he's just carrying a knife like everybody does, but that doesn't mean he didn't. If he already had it in his hand, yeah, I bet he did. I don't know. I think there's at least a very good chance that's right.
There it is.
Yeah, it's right in his hand.
The other thing I took note of was that Aegon had somewhat of a maniacal smile after killing that guy. It might just be after that guy made him literally kiss his feet. But it might be he's just a bloodthirsty killer.
I have a read on that, Sean.
I don't know.
He's saying that revenge did make him feel good. He did feel good getting his vengeance on him.
Ooh, good read, yeah.
They often say it won't do that, and in that case, it did. And I could see it being very gratifying after this man debased you to kill him, as much as it's probably also, I can't imagine not also having some haunted, you have to be really sick, I think, to not feel some kind of way about doing this. But yeah,
he may have been picturing Aemond as he did it.
Yeah, he might have too.
Clearly sick. We know he raped at least one girl, and it's almost certain more. And he went to watch children fight each other to death. Like, he is sick. He is definitely a deranged individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He did those things, no doubt. Okay, well, we've covered all the scenes. I think we've gone into great detail, and we had a lot of fun with it. A lot of great points here. We had a lot of agreement at some points, some spirited discussions at other points, but I certainly respect all my colleagues' opinions here. Obviously, I've been wrong plenty of times. I'd be silly to assume that I'm right, so I always have to make sure to leave room for being wrong. That's just how it is. This is a complicated show. We got lots of valid opinions. We got lots of valid takes, lots of different characters, lots of moving parts. To me, the most important thing is just to have fun with it. I expect to see a lot of you on Friday for our preview stream. Those of you who are book readers and or people who just want to geek out on what's coming next. We'll talk book canon and trailers and everything else that has given us a clue as to what's next, except for leaks. We don't discuss leaks. That's for other folks to discuss, not us. And of course, we'll be back next Monday for another of these reviews of the episode, and on Twitch on Fridays for our game streams. As well, I wanted to refer you to some of our other episodes you can immerse yourself in on our book content side. We discussed Aegon's Conquest a bit, and Miriam Martell, and all that stuff. So Sean and Ashay and I did a Fire and Blood reread us thing. We didn't reread all of Fire and Blood. It's something we will get back to at some point. But we are well past the Conquest, so you could do all of that and then some. We've also covered The Dance of the Dragons in full with Radio Westeros, the book version, fully scripted. 7 episodes on that. 9 if you count our 2 episodes on the Red Kraken, which are bonus episodes. You can only get those by being a patron of either us or Radio Westeros. And those are available also as to paid Spotify subscribers if you listen to us on Spotify. Jillsville sends a thank you sticker, and we will respond with a thanks to you, Jillsville, and everyone else who came to hang out with us tonight, or who is catching this later. If you're listening to this on the way to work, or while you're doing some chores, or whatever you're doing, thanks for hanging out with us. On behalf of Sean and Ashaya, we'll see you next time. On behalf of Bran and Michael Klarfeld, we thank those guys for our awesome video intro and music. And we'll see you next time for more Valar Reread Us and Valar Rewatches.